talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good afternoon. It is 3 minutes past 1. My thanks to Alex Phillips. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins. May I wish each and every one of you a very happy bank holiday Monday, whatever you're up to. Perhaps you're in a beer garden, relaxing at home with the kids, watching a movie, or perhaps, like many, including my amazing team today, perhaps you're working because you've got bills to pay. In which case, I salute your contribution to the unstoppable powerhouse that is the great British economy. But we need to talk about the economy today. You will not believe this statistic. Handouts from the States now pay more than work for 600,000 households. You heard me right? Why do we bother going to work and paying our taxes when 600,000 households are better off at home receiving state handouts? So my question to you this afternoon is a simple one. Are benefits out of control in Britain? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. And on Talk Breakfast, we do love a voice note. So why don't you throw a voice note in and you'll get yourself on the radio and on the telly. 0344 499 1000. Is Benefits Britain out of control? Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer wants to fling us back into the bosom of Brussels with talk of deeper links. Well, another big question. We need to sort this out today. Do we need to reverse Brexit? Will going into the EU, will that save the British economy? Will that make Britain the land of milk and honey? Do we need closer ties with the EU? And what about Reform UK? What about Zia Youssef? He doesn't mess around, does he? The Shadow Home Secretary for Reform UK. He's talking about building detention camps for illegal immigrants in Green Party constituencies. You heard me right. Is that a stroke of genius, giving the Greens what they want, which is open borders, or is it politically divisive? Reform UK to build detention centres in Green Party constituents. Your reaction? So much to get through, but I want to talk about benefits Britain. Is welfare now out of control? And do we need to re-enter the EU to improve the fortunes of this country? Now, I'm delighted to say you can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. And I've got my engineer today, who's Amy. The last time we worked together back in the day, it was Talk Radio. But now it's Talk Radio and it's Talk TV. So if you want to see the show, which is being directed by Jana today, head over to YouTube, search Talk and Up We Pop. Jana, give the camera a bit of a wave if you can. Give us a wobble. I'm not going to throw the Financial Times at the camera, because last time I did that, when Ted Jeffrey was producing the show, I broke the camera, which is worth £20,000. I've still got to have a meeting with the bosses about that. I keep putting it off. So, folks, a big conversation day. So much to get through. Brilliant guests as well. Let's kick off with Dolan's Dispatch. It is a bank holiday Monday, so I thought we could look at reasons to be cheerful. Britain is the 6th biggest economy in the world. That's right, the 6th biggest economy in the world. We are world leaders in green tech, mechanical and chemical engineering, food, architecture, construction. The City of London is the financial capital of Europe, arguably the world. Heathrow, busiest airport on the planet. We dominate in financial services. You wouldn't know it, but we have capacious stores of oil, gas and coal underneath the hallowed turf of this great land, as well as a solid, proven infrastructure of renewables. We have a disproportionate footprint globally in the creative arts, having given the world William Shakespeare, Damien Hirst, J.K. Rowling, the Beatles, and my personal favourite, Sir Elton John, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Don't forget, we gave the world Sherlock Holmes, Hercule Poirot and James Bond. We have a very successful multi-ethnic society. And notwithstanding the failed left-wing multicultural experiment, which involves immigration without the expectation of integration, most of the time, we don't just rub along together well, we thrive. Britain is a largely successful, diverse, safe and happy society. The tensions around immigration, both legal and illegal at the moment, are understandable and fully justified, because this once welcoming and tolerant open society has been abused. With far too many coming, the numbers have been insane, with too many failing to contribute into the system, failing to integrate, failing to speak the language, failing to participate in the British project, existing in a parallel society where the laws, the culture, the attitude to women, the attitude to Jews are completely different and unacceptable. But all of that is fixable. We can fix our divided society. And the reason why we need to do that is it's existential. And how do we do it? We unite the country around one thing, our greatest asset, the flag, and that which it embodies, Britishness. How do we make Britain great again? We make Britain great again by making it Britain again. We can fix our economy by recalibrating so that it pays to work. The contract between citizen and state must drastically change, and the state must drastically change so that handouts are a safety net, not a lifestyle choice. Taxation is another easy fix. High enough to pay for public services, low enough to foster investment, recruitment, innovation and growth. Growth will go up as tax falls. Growth climbs, at which point you can begin to pay down your national debt and you'll have a productive, rich country that eventually doesn't have to just live within its means, but has a surplus, which can go into the construction of bridges, railways. We can maybe have a couple of new reservoirs. Wouldn't that be nice? We can fix those potholes, build new roads, invest in our military and a sustainable energy infrastructure that includes green renewables and fossil fuels, as well as our secret weapon, nuclear. Now, I was on my way here today and I just spotted this amazing car in front of me. And Jana, I don't know if you've got the picture. I took this photograph. It's the back end of a Rolls Royce. Now, that car has got to be, 50 or 60 years old if you're watching on YouTube. I think it's olive green, immaculate condition, stunningly crafted, a beautiful machine, still going strong, as elegant as it was the day it rolled off the forecourt. And it reminded me of a Britain that we once had, and it's a Britain that we can get back. If you look at that machine, look at that Rolls Royce. It was built by working class British men, designed by elite level, superbly educated designers and engineers. It's a great example of the Britain that we once had and the Britain we can get back. That Rolls Royce is a metaphor for what Britain was and can become again. Now, at the moment, I've got to say, under this current administration driving us into the ground with the failed vehicle of socialism, Britain is a rusty old banger. But we can become a mean machine, a beast on four wheels. There's no reason why, if we get this right, Britain can't once again be Top Gear. 0344 499 1000, reasons to be cheerful. Well, there's one very good reason to be cheerful. Edwina Currie is on the planet and she joins me now. Hi, Edwina.
Hello. Now, you missed out as one of the reasons to be cheerful and one of the best things about being British. Yourself, Mr. Mark Dolan.
Oh, no.
Irish surname. Looks like a Viking, intelligent, calm, dignified, and always right. You're
too kind. Listen, I didn't come here today on a long boat, but it's fundamentally true, isn't it, that Britain's an amazing country with a fabulous past and great, great potential, Edwina?
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, I've just looked up Rolls-Royce since you mentioned it. It's now owned by, dare I say, BMW. I think that's a shame. I really do.
It is.
On the other hand, you know, the other bits of Rolls-Royce, for example, making our nuclear submarine, the power packs, and doing all sorts of wonderful things with turbines and so on. That's Derby. Those are people that I used to represent. They're wonderful.
Most definitely. And we can get it back. Fundamentally, the UK has great, great strengths in the world of commerce, finance, financial services. Also, it's little reported that we still make things. We do have industrial output, Edwina.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, the brakes in whatever car you're driving almost certainly got made just up the road here in Chapel in the Frith, and a company called Ferodo. They've been there since, I think, 1903, something like that. There's a lot of manufacturing up north, not least because there are very few objections. You try opening a big factory in, I don't know, St Albans or somewhere posh down south, and everyone would object. You open it up here, and people are welcoming it. So, you know, it's partly our own attitudes. But I agree with you. I think one of the keys to get everything moving again is to get people back to work. There are plenty of vacancies that aren't being filled, and there are more than 600,000 households sitting on their backsides who could be filling them.
Well, that's right. And Edwina, we don't want to demonise people on benefits because there are many who are deserving of that safety net. But it can't be 600,000 households. It's a broken system. It's not sustainable.
Well, that's absolutely right. I don't think deserve should come into it. I think it should be need. It should be basic need. And particularly for people with disabilities or people who've been injured and, you know, need to get back to work, but they can't do it right now, all that sort of thing. And that's actually how the system was invented and brought in. It was invented just before I was born and brought in just after I was born. So we've got plenty of good experience of making it work well. What I think has tended to go wrong is there's an assumption that whatever the problem now, the government's got to fix it. And the only way to fix it is with public money. And that's insane. That's just a hiding to nothing. You end up taxing everybody trying to fill the gap and then handing it out again in, let's think of a few things. Removing the 2-child benefit cap, having every child in a breakfast club eating at our expense, that used to be parents' job. Somewhere along the line, we kind of lost the plot. And not just this government, though, I think they're doing it excessively. The previous one as well. And we have to put a stop to this.
How do we square the circle that welfare needs to shrink, the scope of it, the scale of it, who receives it, and our democracy that relies on the votes of these people?
Well, bear in mind, a lot of people on benefits, a lot of the poorest don't vote at all. I mean, at the last general election, half the adult population who are entitled to vote didn't bother to turn up. So I think you can be pretty sure that you can do things with that, with the benefit system. And a lot of people will make a big fuss, and they may make a fuss online, but actually getting off their butts and going down to the polling station might be a little harder. If I were the minister responsible, and God help the world if I am, but if I were, I think the first thing I would do would be cut all benefits by 10%, including old age pensions, and then saying, look, you have to manage. One of the effects of that would be that inflation would drop like a stone because everyone would seek the cheaper products, and supermarkets would then have to be a lot more nimble about charging, as indeed with the petrol pumps. It's a big difference in petrol pumps in smaller areas and poorer areas and in the wealthier areas. And then I would say you can't have benefits for mild anxiety. Everybody feels mild anxiety from time to time.
And that's not an extreme right-wing position, is it, Edwina? That was a suggestion from the Tony Blair Institute, no less, last week.
Yeah. Well, God save me from saying I agree with Tony Blair.
Is it a leap year, Edwina? I mean, he's a broken clock that's at least right twice a day.
That's absolutely right. Something's got to be done. You have to put a limit on the amount of money that's going out in benefits, not because it's helping people, but it's actually helping keep people in poverty. If it is so much more beneficial not to work, then why would you work? People are intelligent, but what then happens is they lose all the skills of going to work, of turning up on time, of working with a team, of accepting authority and training and looking after, dare I mention it, the customer. That's not been happening nearly enough.
Most definitely. A big question this afternoon. This is the conversation I'm having with Edwina Currie. I want to have it with you. Is welfare out of control? 0344 499 1000. Do we need to recalibrate that relationship between citizen and state? Do you go to work? How do you feel about paying your taxes for 600,000 households that are better off not working at all? More from Edwina to come. This is Talk.
Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a big reaction to today's Dolan's dispatch. It's Bank Holiday Monday, so I thought I could offer reasons to be cheerful. Britain is the 6th biggest economy in the world, a global economic powerhouse, a successful multi-ethnic society, a dynamic economy, great people, and we've got pubs as well, which are not too bad, are they? Well, Brad says, good afternoon, Mark. Your long list of positives about the UK was very nice, but the entire list is overshadowed by the fact that we are constantly governed by evil morons. And we'll get to more of your thoughts in just a moment. But Edwina Currie joins me, former Conservative government minister, broadcaster and author. And Sir Keir Starmer, Edwina, is to tell European leaders that the UK's national interest lies in deeper links with the bloc. The problem is it might cost us £1 billion a year for the privilege of those closer ties. Is it worth the money?
Well, he's just proved by saying something like that he's absolutely hopeless negotiator. What he should say to the EU is, it's in your interest to have closer relationships with us. I'll give you an example. Thinking of a holiday, going on a Seine cruise in France, and what's putting me off is the thought of queuing up to prove who I am to get border control. Now, in fact, in Italy and in Greece, I think it is, they've already decided to get rid of all those border controls because it is damaging the holiday industry. It's in the EU's interest to be nice to us. That's what Starmer, the idiot, should actually be saying. What he is thinking is that actually joining in the loan, a huge loan that's going to be made to Ukraine would be good for Britain, because he's then expecting everyone that joins in will get some orders for weapons and planes and goodness knows what. And we make a lot of stuff here. So, yes, we can certainly take that line, but I think we should keep that under our hat. Incidentally, we have just given, I've just looked it up, 752 million to Ukraine. It's just been announced quite recently. But bless, it wasn't our money. It was the sanctioned money from some of the Russian oligarchs. I think that's brilliant. I think it's exactly what we should be doing. And the whole of the EU could do the same. A hell of a lot of that money stuck in Brussels. That's where they should be sending it. Send it off to Kyiv. They've got better use for it.
Your steadfast support for Ukraine has been consistent and will age very well, Edwina. You've also taken in Ukrainian refugees. I couldn't agree with you more about that. Are closer ties with the EU, is that a silver bullet for the British economy? Do you think we really are struggling outside of the bloc, Edwina?
Well, I think it's there are how shall I put it? There are abrasions, there are frictions of one kind or another that are a darn nuisance, that aren't helping anybody. And with a lot of goodwill and some really kind of nimble diplomatic negotiation, I think we can get rid of all
and technology.
Well, technology is part of it, but we've learned how to do it, for example, across the border in Northern Ireland, which is you have a list of trusted traders. Anybody that goes regularly across the border who's legit, you just wave them through. You know who they are. A member of my family runs a tour company, a cycling tour company. Anything more inner innocent, Mark, you could not imagine. And he runs these tours in Holland and Italy and places like that, and people spend thousands of pounds going on them. He's got to list not only every bike that he's taking, every bit of equipment, every spanner, every spare wheel. It's rubbish, and he's got to do it every time. It should be automatic. The first time you do it, yeah, you need to check who these people are. Are they money launderers? Are they people smugglers? But after that, once you know they're legit, 99% of businesses are legit. You should just be able to wave them through. That's the sort of thing that we could easily do, and it needs the EU to do it, not us.
I agree with you, Edwina, and it's my view that Labour are using Brexit as two things, a political football and an excuse for their failures.
I couldn't have put it better myself. You're so right. If they're going to get the economy moving, it's not rejoining the EU in any form that's going to make that happen. It's trying to make sure that the British economy, a standalone economy, one of the biggest in the world, is actually functioning properly. At the moment, it's almost impossible to get anything done. At the moment, the money is being spent wrongly in counterproductive ways, producing perverse incentives. It's absolutely crazy. And anybody with half a brain, which I don't think either Starmer or Reeves put together could produce half a brain, anyone with half a brain can see that. You know, if the voters and the people that call into your programme, if we can see it, why can't they? It really is ridiculous. We have to get to the stage where budgets are being balanced, money is being generated, taxes are being reduced, private business is being welcomed, money makers are being praised and given the feeling that they are valued in this country. You know, I live not far from Manchester, and the whole of Manchester and Salford has been transformed, as anyone who's been there will know. 40 odd years ago, all that land was derelict. It was all the Mersey Docks and Harbour Board in Liverpool and the Manchester Ship Canal leading from there into the heart of Manchester. It was bought for a song. It was derelict. And it was private money. It was the Peel Company that did it. And now we can see what wonders they have performed. But it wasn't government that did it. In fact, when government starts to do it, you just end up with a mess and a very big tax bill and everybody very, very upset and complaining.
Now, in the early months of last year, I had the deep and great pleasure of having coffee with you, Edwina. You may remember that, January, February time, I think, of last year. I was in between jobs, I can't lie, and we had a great chat. We were in Golders Green, of course, which is a beautiful North London suburb populated by a British Chinese community and more particularly a British Jewish community. It's a very, very nice place. It's close to Hampstead Heath. It's got bars, restaurants, shops, all the rest of it. It was the scene of the most awful terror attack last week. What do you think the legacy of what happened in Golders Green will be?
Well, what it should be right now, and I agree with you, I remember that really well, what it should be right now is the government shutting down all demonstrations, have a moratorium for 6 months, because we're going to have a very hot, long summer otherwise, and it's going to be awful. And I think the Jewish community, not just in Golders Green, but up here in Manchester as well, of course, where we've had such tragedies, I think they are so frightened. Some of these are my relatives, my family, and people that I know. I was in Golders Green at that time because my cousin was giving an 80th birthday lunch in a kosher restaurant. He's not kosher, but some of the other family members are. So they're frightened. They're thinking, should we go to Israel, which is being bombed right now, and thinking they might actually be safer there. And if we're being absolutely fair, and I think we should be, let's recognise that some of the far-right demos make people in the Muslim communities and others also feel very upset.
Of course.
I mean, there was a conviction last week of somebody who raped a Sikh woman thinking that she was a Muslim just because of what she looked like. It's awful. We need to protect our streets. And one of the obvious ways of protecting our streets is to say to all these demonstrators, we know what you're up to. You are trying to intimidate. You are trying to spread fear and hatred. You are trying to spread and to encourage violence. And we're going to put a stop to it. And that's the power that we should use, and we should stop it right now. It may be very different in the autumn, who knows, but at least a quiet summer would be a blessing.
Why have the British political left been so silent on anti-Semitism in recent years, Edwina, particularly given that it's largely a political leaning to which Jewish people have been sympathetic over the years.
Oh, yeah. A lot of Jewish people were voting Labour for a very long time. I mean, personally, I couldn't understand it, but there you go. You have to agree to differ. Sometimes around the dinner table, you have to use your politics with care and caution and politeness and good humour and all that kind of stuff. It's the extreme left who have gone that way. And Corbyn, I think, really got it started. He's always been pro-Palestinian. Once they got anywhere near a whiff of power, they were looking at the 5 million Muslim votes. And that's a tragedy because so many Muslims are horrified at what's been happening. And they know that once you stir up racism, once you start to point at people for the way they dress in public, then you are putting an awful lot more lives at risk. That's horrible. They know that. And it's a grim thing to have happen. People like Corbyn are patsies. They've always been patsies. They are what Lenin called useful idiots.
Yeah.
They don't question what's fed to them. They will go out and they will be made to feel important by waving their arms and shouting. They will go and lay wreaths at the wrong memorials. They will pretend that they were present but not involved. Once you go on anything like this, you're involved and you have to take responsibility for what happens afterwards.
Most definitely. And Edwina, just briefly, these so-called peace marches that you'd like to see paused for 6 months would never be allowed in many Muslim countries, such as the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Why? Because they are very hot to trot on Islamism.
Well, they are, but also, of course, somebody like Zap Polanski would find himself in deep doo-doo in a number of the countries that he's busy trying to defend, partly because he's Jewish and partly because he's gay.
If he's gay, given he's gay, is that a defence that can be made of Captain Cleavage?
Well, I don't fancy him, so, you know.
but I mean, he says, oh, you know, I'm not being anti-Semitic by supporting the so-called peace marches or telling Jewish people that their fear may be just a perception. You know, him being Jewish, is that a defence?
It's not a defence. It's a fact that if he were to go to some of the countries whose appalling behaviour and terrorism he is trying to defend or to condone, he would be arrested and he would be... and this actually happens when some of these idiots go to these countries and behave, you know, look, it's a free country, it's wonderful. And what do they find? Next thing we know, they're in jail.
Well, that's right. I'd be more than happy, Edwina, to pay the flights of the Queers for Palestine and see how that works out for them. Before we let you go, Edwina, we know you're very busy with lots of things, but are you taking time off today? Do you have plans for the bank holiday?
I'm going to a lovely sort of garden party with lots of kids and a bouncing castle. Some friends up the road in Stockport who have got together about a year ago, 2 lovely united families. I think I'm probably going to eat cake and drink wine.
Well, I think you've earned it, Edwina. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for your time and for your terribly unnecessarily kind words about the show. Edwina Currie, your reaction there to what she has had to say. 2 big conversations we're having this afternoon. Is welfare out of control? We've just unearthed this extraordinary statistic, which is that 600,000 households are better off not working. You heard me right. Plus, do we need closer ties with the EU? I'll be speaking to a top expert about that next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. It's Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins. So much more to get through by way of feedback. A big reaction to Edwina's comments about cutting pensioners' benefits, cutting the pension by 10%. This from Neil. Good afternoon, Mark. Next time someone comes on saying the triple lock, or as Edwina has just said, cut pensions by 10%, just ask them to see if they're prepared to live, or should I say survive, on £10,000 a year and see how they manage. If pensions are to be reduced, perhaps it should start with the gold-plated, index-linked government and public service pensions. And that's Neil, an angry pensioner who's worked in the building industry for 50 years without drawing any benefits, working in all weathers. I'll get to your thoughts on that as we go along. Are benefits out of control in this country? We'll come to that. But the Prime Minister has said that we need closer ties with the EU in order to reboot our economy. The problem is, it's being reported the bloc will demand £1 billion a year for the privilege. Let's get reaction from a very old friend of mine, a former colleague and a brilliant broadcaster, comms consultant, former head of press at the Brexit Party, Liam Deacon. Hello, Liam.
Hi, Mark. Great to see you back on tour.
It was great to see you, and thanks for joining us today. What do you think has motivated Labour's interest in the EU project?
I think that's the right question to start with here, because obviously we've got the local elections coming up. There is lots of people within the Labour Party who are talking about how to unseat Starmer. So we're looking at a possible leadership contest within the Labour Party. And who loves the EU more than anyone else? Labour members, the people who will be deciding who the next Labour leader is. So I think it's quite clear that Starmer's really ramping up this pro-EU rhetoric now, because he's anticipating a power struggle within the Labour Party, and he wants to impress and ingratiate himself with Labour Party members rather than the pro-Brexit people that got him elected out here in the nation. So it's. I think you're right to ask this, and I think the answer clearly is this is being motivated by internal Labour Party politics. We've also seen Morgan McSweeney leave Keir Starmer's government rather recently, and he was one of the greatest proponents within the Labour Party of actually trying in a small way to respect that Brexit vote. He understood the importance of regional and working class pro-Brexit people in getting Labour elected, and wanted to respect the Brexit vote. And he was a loud voice within the Labour Party, making sure that happened. Now he's gone, I think we're going to see unleashed some of the worst pro-EU sort of instincts of this Labour government come bubbling to the surface. And you know what makes it such a betrayal is that this government, before the 2024 general election, sent a lot of signals to the sort of pro-Brexit population that they would respect the Brexit vote. A lot of the people that voted for Labour did so holding their teeth. They were people that voted for Boris Johnson because they wanted to get Brexit done, and they were utterly betrayed by Boris. And they held their teeth and voted for Labour because they saw it as the only way to get rid of Boris. That, you know, Starmer made it out that he was the only credible alternative to Boris, the only person that would get enough votes to get rid of the Tories. And he gave a lot of signals during that general election campaign that he would respect the Brexit vote. Your Brexit voters, but vote for me. I'll respect your Brexit vote and I'll get rid of Boris. And the Labour manifesto is pretty clear about this. There was a few words about pragmatic moves towards the EU, but he was deadly clear that they would not go near the free movement again. They would not go near the single market again. Okay, and as soon as it becomes convenient for Starmer to do this because of internal Labour Party politics, he's throwing those pro-Brexit voters under the bus. So it is an utter betrayal. And you know, this is a Prime Minister who, in opposition, was banging on about how, you know, authoritarian Boris was and how anti-democratic some of the elements of the Brexit movement were. And here he is being utterly anti-democratic. And we can get onto the mechanisms that he's going to do this, bringing it in, using these Henry VIII powers to embed EU regulations in British law without even so much as a vote in Parliament. But they're just details. I think fundamentally this is a betrayal of the Brexit vote. And I mean, let's be frank, Mark, we all knew this was coming. We were just waiting for the moment for it to come. And it stinks to me as well that he's using Ukraine and Iran as excuses to do this.
100%. Well, it's like the Chancellor, isn't it, who has blamed everyone but herself for Britain's crumbling economy. She's blamed Donald Trump's tariffs. She's blamed the war in Iran. She suddenly decided, having never mentioned Brexit, that it was Brexit's fault. I wouldn't be surprised if she cites the Battle of Hastings and the French Revolution at some point. But the bottom line is that this is a political football for Labour. It's an excuse for their failures, isn't it? The problem we have, Liam, is that whilst the Prime Minister is talking about significant, but in general scheme of things, modest realignment with the EU, his replacement will likely go further. Wes Streeting is talking about a customs union, which means, as you know, no more trade deals. And Andy Burnham, if he gets back into the Commons and into number 10, reportedly, according to Adam Cherry at the Guido Fawkes website, wants to fully rejoin. So Starmer's replacement could be even more EU friendly.
Yeah, I mean, almost certainly. So what you're going to see is the various contenders to be the next Labour leader trying to be the most pro-EU. Because actually, when you look at the polling, I think it's something like 92% of Labour Party members support rejoining the EU. So it's going to become a totemic issue. And what we saw with Starmer previously is when he actually won the Labour leadership to become leader now, he pretended to basically be a Corbynite, remember, and then betrayed a lot of those principles. Correct. So he's a shapeshifter. But I mean, it's just worth focusing actually on some of the things that are actually going to happen. We can talk about what may or may not happen under a next leader. Some of the things they've already signalling they were going to sign up to do is quite significant. So one of them is they're going to rejoin the EU's energy markets, right? And you might think, oh, that's sensible. We can sell a bit of electricity back and forth. But it goes deeper than that with all of these EU things. So to join the EU's energy markets, you have to have a level playing field across environmental and climate regulations. So just to sell a bit of electricity back and forth in the single market, we basically have to embed all of the EU's mad and bad net zero policies in domestic law. It will basically mean that we lose the sovereign right to bin net zero policies because you'll be locked into it.
Liam, there never has been and never will be a free lunch with the EU.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So this £1 billion that they're going to charge us is fascinating, right? They're using the pay to play sort of rhetoric, and I mean, you might think fair enough. You have to pay a bit of money to be part of a club. But when you look at what it goes to, this £1 billion has nothing to do with the trade deal that we're setting. And actually, let's talk about the Ukraine fund as well. So there's two elements of what's going on today. There's actually two stories in the headline. One is they want us to pay £1 billion to get closer to the single market for things like energy and pharmaceuticals and things like that. The other is that the UK is going to join this big loan system for the EU. So £70 billion that the EU is borrowing, and they're going to underwrite this loan, and that loan will be paid back by Russia, theoretically, in the future. Now, there's no reason why the UK couldn't do this on our own, and we have done to the tune of about £2 billion. We borrowed some money, underwritten it, and given that money to Ukraine. That's fair enough. But so why are we doing this in lockstep with the EU when we can just do it on our own? And the reason is because the EU is shutting out British defence firms from supplying the Ukrainian military with the money that flows from the EU.
They couldn't care less about the British national interest.
And here they are singing songs about it, how virtuous they are. They want to back Ukraine, but they're using the process to enrich themselves.
Forget about it. Now, I want to get to Mike Galsworthy in just 1 second. Last question. We could easily do an hour, Liam. We'll get you back. But before I let you get to the beer garden, can I just ask you, very briefly though, you've never been tribal. I've worked with you for many years, and you're a very balanced person. You think things through very carefully. Would you acknowledge that Brexit has impacted parts of the British economy?
Yes, I mean, it definitely has. But
was it worth it? Was it worth it?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Mark. Brexit, the way that we've pursued it, which is basically not to diverge from the EU in any meaningful sense, okay? We've not got rid of any of the sort of the crushing regulations or anything. We've basically left the EU, kept all their regulations, and increased immigration from outside the bloc. Brexit, as it's been pursued by the anti-Brexit governments that have implemented it, has not been worth it. No, I mean, it's just more and more evidence that we need a government next time that actually believes in the policies that they're implementing and that the British public voted for.
Liam, it's been too long. Look forward to seeing you very soon. Have a good bank holiday Monday. Liam Deacon, comms consultant and former head of press at the Brexit Party. A good friend of mine joins us now, Dr. Mike Galsworthy, chair of the European Movement UK. Mike, really good to see you.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for your valuable time. Look, like you, I voted Remain in 2016, but I think I made a mistake. I think it's good that we're out. What's your view?
Oh, you asked me that last time. Well, I'd have to agree with Liam, which is we've gone out, we've hovered by the outside and changed nothing dramatically all the time, whilst absolutely hemorrhaging money across business and opportunities for the friction that we've caused.
Well, the friction is minimal, isn't it? It's predominantly in relation to the passage of goods. It's affected smaller businesses than large ones. And the export of physical goods to the EU represents about 20% of our economy. When it comes to services we're flying, our exports to Europe are at a record high. Sounds pretty good to me.
Well, it may do, but that's not the full analysis. When you think about all of the job recognition that we've now lost, when you think about travel for delivering services, and we've lost a lot of rights to do that. Think about the travelling musicians that now can't, travelling tradespeople that now can't. The list goes on. And so it's not just about goods, it's also about services. And we are doing better than 10 years ago, thank the Lord. However, analysis after analysis shows that if we actually had all of that market that we used to have, we'd be doing better. Like some other countries, like Ireland and Poland and Spain are all booming. We should be in that set. While Germany, who really screwed up with their heavy industry hooked on Russian oil, you know, that's their own story. But there are other countries within that set of 27 that are doing really well.
We can agree on Germany's failure. Mike, the issue we've got, I've got no doubt that you'd like us to re-enter the EU. Well, our cost of membership previously was around 20 billion. That's going to be in the region of 25 or 30 billion should we go back in. Are you seriously telling me that we would get back 25 billion in trade?
No. Well, we've
not
already
in a month of
lost
Sundays.
more money. Oh yeah, that and more. I mean, we've already lost more money from Brexit than we have put into the EU in the entirety of the time that we were in it. And so, of course, it's going to bring a lot more back in. And also, I mean, I don't know how much.
25 billion. You think we're going to get 25 billions into the Treasury from tax receipts from trade? 25 billion pounds. It's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah.
We will
I
be in the red.
More than just trade. There's also the labour markets and everything else. I mean, there is a reason why there's a queue of countries that want to join the EU, from Moldova to Ukraine to Georgia to now Iceland,
they're all poor.
Canada.
All poor.
Iceland and Canada are not poor countries.
Canada don't want to join the EU.
They do.
If they had any sense, they'd join them. If Canada had any sense, they would join.
Population want to.
If Canada, well, that's because they're all crazy woke. If they had any sense, they would join America.
Well,
the biggest
that's
economy
what Donald
in history.
Trump was offering to them, and they really didn't like the look of that, and they'd much rather join the EU, and polling shows it. But I figured that you wouldn't like me as much as Liam.
Listen, I'm a big fan of yours. I also, Mike,
very, very good.
You're very reasonable, and you're also not tribal. And I think, you know, Liam said he thinks that Brexit has impacted the economy. That's a view that you share as well. But when I look at it, Liam, and I voted Remain because I was worried about short-term economic disruption, I just don't see it. Yes, there's been an impact. Our growth has outpaced Germany since 2016. Investment into the UK is higher at the moment than Germany, Italy and France combined. Our national debt is lower than France's. You know, Europe's a dying economic bloc. We're not paying 20 billion for membership. We've got control over our borders. Yes, we're not using it, but it's there if we want it. The list goes on. Brexit's great.
Well, if you really believe that, then that is good for you. We live in a democracy where the views of everyone counts, and you can see by all the polling, and you can see from the business voices, and also you can see by the geopolitics the Brits just don't want to be lining up with Trump. And they do want to be lining up.
You don't need to be. I agree, Michael. You're welcome to be Trump skeptic. It's a little messy in the Middle East at the moment, but you don't need to be in the EU to align on security matters or diplomacy.
No, but it helps a lot.
How does it help?
And that's the point. It does help a lot to be round the table, to have shared people in the council, shared people in the commission and in the parliament, and just like, since Brexit, we haven't had our people there, just walking around with the others, making decisions with the others.
Well, other countries that also have no military?
What's that?
Other countries that also have no military. Who cares what Europe thinks? It's a depleted continent, economically, societally, and militarily. We've given up so much of what we had, Mike.
No, Europe is absolutely rich with culture and it's being invested in.
It's got libraries,
and we've got the massive innovation that you see happening in Ukraine at the moment, plus the incredible growth that you're seeing in Poland. All of Eastern Europe is really coming back online. Ireland is bouncing back really thoroughly as well. There is tons to see in Europe. In fact, in terms of flow of talent for science and tech, it used to be that it was all flowing out to the States. That has now crossed over, and there's more coming in from the States than is going out. I think we're going to see a massive European renaissance coming up.
Well, I do hope so.
Brain drain for talent, for tech, for science and innovation, and also for investing in citizens. Like, look how Europe takes care of its citizens in terms of quality of food, quality of air and beaches, customer, not services, what's the word? Quality control, something like that.
Food standards, food standards. I agree with you.
Compare all of that to states. You know, it's about quality of life.
Mike, I agree.
It's about our citizens. And I think doing all of that together is what it's all about.
Well, Mike, we have something in common. We're both passionate Europeans, and I would like Europe to give up its socialist experiment and to become great again, and I think it can. So let's have this conversation into the future. Mike, maybe you can convince me that we need to get back in. Lovely to see you again. Have a very good bank holiday Monday. We're big fans of yours, Mike. Great to have you on the show. Dr. Mike Galsworthy, Chair of the European Movement UK. So two big questions this afternoon. Do we need closer ties with the EU? Will that fix our problems? Will your life get better if we're back in the EU? And is welfare out of control? Your call's next.
Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Sam in Ballymena. Good afternoon, Mark. Brexit has been a disaster and Northern Ireland has been hit with business closures galore. Alison in County Antrim. Looking snazzy this afternoon, Mark. Well, look, thank you so much for that. Of course, if you want to see the ridiculous outfit that I'm clobbered in, then head over to YouTube, search Talk and up we pop. Canada would not join America. My cousins are Canadian. There's a bit of them and us between the two countries. I don't know. I suppose it may have changed since over 20 years ago. Thank you so much for that. Stephen in London, your guest Mike says Canada wants to join the EU, would rather join the EU. What he actually means, or has forgotten to say, is Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, wants to join the EU, and everything about Carney's past will support that. Stephen, I'm glad you mentioned him because he's the man that invented the printing of money, which has caused the hyperinflation we now suffer and the explosion in asset values, including houses, which young people now cannot buy. Matt is in Cheshire. Good afternoon, Matt.
Very good afternoon, Mark. Good to speak to you.
You too. Happy Bank Holiday Monday. What are you up to today?
I've just been to the supermarket, done a little bit of gardening, and that's me done for the day now. I'm not doing anything.
You can put your feet up. Well, I'm glad to hear it. What do you think about Brexit? Do we need closer ties with the EU, Matt?
Well, I voted for Brexit, and I sort of followed the entire process afterwards. And I wrote something a few weeks ago. It's Labour can never fully acknowledge or accept that Britain can never fully trust the vast majority of foreign nations and their people.
Yeah.
Their gullibility and their fetish for foreigners is the main cause of most of the social problems in Britain today.
I agree with you, Matt.
Started with Tony the traitor. To Labour, foreign affairs partners and treaties means backhanders, holidays and attention. And we never see any tangible evidence of the fictitious benefits of these political decisions. All we see is unskilled immigrants pour in and towns and cities become filthier and fall apart.
Matt, everything you've said is true, because we had it under Tony Blair, who needlessly opened our borders to Eastern Europe, something the EU at the time did not request, but he had his own ambitions, Blair, within the EU project. I think he wanted to be president after becoming Prime Minister of this country. And what you've got, we've had it under the Tories as well, this globalist agenda, which is anti-British and against the British people.
Oh, absolutely. It's basically Logan's Run, or some kind of where we all have the same bland identity. National identity is destroyed, and we all sit in our homes, buy things off Amazon. We all get food delivered, and we all live in fear. While they all hobnob around the world, laughing and joking and living as we used to do.
And in the end, Matt, and it ties in with Dolan's dispatch at the start of the show, the way that we fix it is to unite around the flag and to make Britain Britain again.
I mean, that's already happening, Mark. I think it did start with Brexit. Yeah. It's just that we just got swayed off course for a while. Significant change does take time, and I think these people will never be seen again after what.
I agree. Matt, briefly, a couple of seconds. Can we get our country back?
Oh, it starts on Thursday, Mark.
What a great line. Matt, great call. We'll speak soon. Keep it Talk.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a good afternoon and a happy Bank Holiday Monday to all of you. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins. And Starmer's Brexit betrayal continues as the PM seeks Britain going back into the bosom of Brussels. It will cost us £1 billion a year for the pleasure. But what do you think? Some people believe that Brexit has been a disaster. So does the UK need closer ties with the EU? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Would going back in solve our problems? Would it boost the economy? Would life get better for you and I if we were in the EU? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note. Meanwhile, it takes a lot to shock me, but this had me spitting my coffee out this morning. Wait for this, folks. It's been revealed the 600,000 households in the country, 600,000 households, are better off on benefits than working. So my question to you this afternoon is a simple one. Is welfare out of control? 0344 499 1000. You can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online, whatever you're up to today. Perhaps you're in the garden, pruning the roses. Maybe you're relaxing in the living room with a cup of tea with your feet up. Perhaps you're at work, contributing to the unstoppable powerhouse that is the great British economy. But you can, of course, hear the show and you can watch it as well. Head to YouTube, search Talking Up We Pop. Let's talk. And we'll kick off with this conversation around benefits. We've got a voice note from David. Are benefits out of control? Take it away.
For all those people that say we don't have any problems with benefits and how it's only going out to those that are in need, which, you know, I agree that there's probably a fair proportion that are receiving benefits fairly. However, I'm also of the belief that there is a lot of people gaming the system. I don't trust human society. So, therefore, the simple answer is this. If you think it's working fine, have a task force that investigates randomly every person who's on benefits, and there shouldn't be any more problem. Because, what will happen? Maybe those who are actually gaming the system, they'll have to try to keep up their ruse every single day of the year, and they won't be able to do that.
So is welfare, that was a great voice note, thank you, David, and it's true, by the way, just hold these people to account. Is welfare out of control? Book your place on the show. I'm taking your calls at 2:45. Do you work? Are you someone that puts a shift in? Are you a member of Alarm Clock Britain, or have you done over the years? How do you feel about your taxes going to 600,000 households who are better off not working? Does that end well? Book your place on the show. We'll talk about that at 2:45. Let me get instant reaction now from the finest political double act in the land, Christine and Neil Hamilton. Hello, folks.
Hello. Hello, Mark.
It's so good to see you. Christine, is welfare out of control?
Well, absolutely. I mean, 600,000 households is an enormous figure. I don't know how many people there are estimated to be in each household nowadays, but I mean, that's a hell of a lot of actual individual people. Of course it's out of control. It's out of control because it's deliberately out of control by this Labour government. They want more and more people to be on welfare, and therefore they'll vote for them. I mean, they're desperate, and they'll just ratchet up the welfare bill, and the rest of us have to pay for it. I mean, it's I've forgotten the question, but yes, I think totally out of control. Do you know, I look forward to seeing you, Mark, whenever I do, but I mean, it just, sitting here for the last few minutes while you've been talking, it just depresses me deeply. What we're going to talk about later about Europe.
Yeah.
And this welfare bill. I mean, to any decent, hard-working people, I mean, we are now retired, but we haven't completely laid down our shovels.
No.
But to people who do, Alarm Clock Britain, it's called, get up in the morning, it's an absolute monumental slap in the face. I don't know how there hasn't been more rise up and riot, frankly.
I agree. And it's interesting, Neil, this is not a new problem, is it? In the late 70s, there was a lot of anger about benefits culture then, which helped to sweep Margaret Thatcher to power.
Well, indeed. And of course, we're rapidly going to hell in a handcart as a nation once again, as a result of the profligacy of the last government, made 10 times worse by this one.
In the late 70s, you had people going off to work and folk next door doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And we're getting back to that now. 6.5 million young people not in education or training. You know, what are they doing? This is a vast human resource which is lying idle. No wonder the economy is in such a state. You know, our government borrowing has gone through the roof. You know, the welfare state now costs us nearly £400 billion a year. And we carry on like this, we'll become the farewell state, because everything's going to grind to a halt, as it did in the late 1970s, winter of discontent and all the rest of it. We simply can't afford to carry on supporting so many unproductive people. You know, the people who are actually productive are becoming a smaller and smaller part of the population with every year that passes. We have an aging population as well, which is making it even worse. So, you know, greater and greater burdens are placed upon those who are in work, and that's why our tax system is also going through the roof. Highest proportion of national income taken in taxation for 70 years, you know, since the Attlee government immediately after the war. So, you know, it's a disastrous situation. It can't go on for much longer.
And also another problem, you say it can't go on for much longer, but a child is today living in a workless household. They see their parents not going out to work, see all the money coming in. They see that they get better toys and better iPads and better this, that and the other than the kids next door who are a working family. So the whole thing is insidious, and it becomes built into the system that you don't have to work to have enough money.
And insidious is a good word, Christine. It's chilling as well, isn't it? Because unfortunately, Christine, there is a democratic dividend to putting millions of people on benefits.
Well, that's true.
I think exactly. I mean, I think I mentioned
this is the problem.
Earlier.
We're against the massive welfare state, but all those folk sat at home doing nothing because they've got stress or had a bad day, they're not going to be voting Conservative or Reform, are they?
Well, they may be too idle to get out of their chairs to go and vote, of course. Look on the bright side.
They're watching Cash in the Attic. Is that still on?
I said earlier, it's a deliberate political policy of this government, so that they shore up their own base. And of course, as they now see their base rapidly shrinking and the iceberg is about to hit them on Thursday, all they will do is double down and hand out more and more and more money in the desperate hope of keeping their jobs. I mean, that's what it's all about.
The trouble is, like all Labour governments, they run out of other people's money, don't they? And we're getting to that stage now. You know, Rachel Reeves have got absolutely zero room for manoeuvre, except out of the door number 11. But whoever comes in to replace her sometime after next Thursday is not going to find life any easier. In fact, perhaps even worse. Amazingly, the markets seem to think that Rachel Reeves is better than any of the likely alternatives. So God knows what we think of them.
Yes, we're existing, aren't we, in a dystopian world, Christine, where Starmer and Reeves are the least bad option.
I know. I mean, you do feel as though you're waking up into a nightmare. And the thought of, I mean, Miliband being touted as Prime Minister, you'd think he'd dipped his toe into that water once.
Oh, he's already ruled himself out.
I think he has. I think he wants to be Chancellor. But I heard something an hour or so ago about the pint, the good old British
Yes.
pint, is going to be, in certain places, it is already £10 for. I mean, I don't drink beer, but that means that the glass of wine will be 10 quid before you can
Yes.
say Jack. No wonder people aren't going to pubs.
Yeah, well,
I mean, a round would cost you sort of 40 or 50 quid for a small group of people.
Most definitely. Neil, you entered the House of Commons in 1983, which was the beginning of a golden era for the country, militarily, economically, diplomatically. How did Mrs. Thatcher get on top of the cult of welfareism?
Well, we gave people an incentive to go out and work because instead of a declining economy and huge rises in taxation, we reversed gear and we cut the role of the state in people's lives. We cut taxes so that you kept more of what you earned, and we shook the country up, got rid of nationalised industries that were just a burden upon everybody else because they were huge loss makers, and as a result cut the burden on government spending. So if we reduced proportionately government spending as a proportion of national income, we could then reduce taxes as well. And so it was a virtuous circle. Today we have the opposite of that. We have an evil circle, if you like, where government carries on spending, so it has to put up taxes. Putting up taxes means there's less incentive to work, so that means there's less revenue for the government to raise in taxation, and so on and so forth. It's a spiral of decline. And this government offers no hope whatsoever to anybody, I think, apart from the people who want to sit on their backsides all day and simply live on benefits. For the rest of us, we are pensioners, but we're also still working. I'm still in practice at the bar, and we're still doing shows on television a bit. And so, we can't afford to live on our pensions, and that's not because we're hugely extravagant. It's because British pensions are some of the least good in Europe, actually. So British pensioners are not seeing the benefits that they should have in their old age, which they could have got if we'd had a growing economy and a productive economy and an economy and a country which looked, as in America, to entrepreneurs and to make huge amounts of money, and they're admired. In this country, we want to talk them down. We've got parties, crackpot parties like the Greens, that want to tax all rich people out of existence. So every entrepreneur worth his salt is going to leave the country. We've already seen that with this government's attack on non-doms, where huge numbers of millionaires have now left the country. So we lose out not just on the personal tax they pay, but also what they bring to the British economy in the businesses they create and run.
The war on non-doms, a shocking and self-destructive policy that began under the Conservatives, who also signed up for the madness of net zero, presided over open borders, wokery in our public institutions, and in my view, Christine, the COVID overreaction, which I think has created this cult of welfareism. It became normal to sit at home and not do anything. Can I ask you, Christine, about a new policy announced by Reform UK? It's quite significant. They want to build immigration centres in which illegal immigrants are detained for a couple of weeks before being deported if they win the next general election. Now, that's a policy that I would support, and I think many of my viewers and listeners would. The idea that you break into the country and that you get money and freedom to roam the streets is absolutely mind-boggling. So it's a good policy, but the angle that's being probed at the moment is Zia Youssef, their Home Affairs spokesperson, who said he's going to build these detention centres in areas that have a Green Party MP because they welcome open borders. Henry Bolton has said that this is authoritarian politics and divisive. What do you think?
Well, you've got to laugh, haven't you? I mean, heavens alive. The Greens are one of the biggest hypocritical scams that I can remember, quite honestly. I mean, to me, when I was growing up, and most people, the Greens were this cuddly sort of yogurt knitting hug a tree party, and they were basically very laudable, but sort of slightly out of touch with reality. Now they've done a complete volte-face under this extraordinary Polanski fellow. I think it's very funny that reforms say if you vote Green, you're going to get a migrant centre in your patch. I mean, why not? Yeah. Why not?
Well, we could go one further, and if people got a spare room, then they have to take in a migrant. I think this is great. This is a great idea. When I was in the Welsh Parliament up until 2021, Wales had very piously declared itself, because we had a Labour government there ever since the Welsh Parliament was created.
3 more days.
Yeah. and they declared Wales to be a nation of sanctuary. So when I suggested to them that we should live up to the title that they'd imposed upon us, and we should invite as many illegal migrants landing on the shores of Kent to Wales as we could, in order that we could maximise our virtue quotient. But sadly, this idea wasn't taken up by them. They thought that I was being satirical.
Well, listen, I tell you something. We miss you in frontline politics. I've got to say, Neil, you would have a huge contribution to make. Luckily, you're contributing to today's conversation. So my question to you out there, 03444991000. First of all, are benefits out of control in this country? And do we need closer ties with the EU? We'll discuss both of those issues. Are Reform UK right to want to put detention centres in areas that welcome mass immigration, or is it divisive politics? Your calls and the Hamiltons next.
Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do we need closer ties with the EU? Sarah has messaged the show. Good afternoon, Sarah. I hope you're having a good bank holiday Monday. She says, Mark, no government should be allowed to overturn a democratic vote and sign us up to something we voted to come out of without a mandate. We do not live in a democracy if Starmer goes ahead with this and gets away with it. He has no right to sign away our sovereignty. I hope the good people of this country stand together to stop this. It's quite clear, isn't it, Neil Hamilton, that this Labour Prime Minister would like us to have closer ties with the EU. His replacements, Wes Streeting, Andy Burnham, Angela Rayner, will seek that we go back into the bosom of Brussels as well. Is there any argument for a closer relationship with the bloc?
Well, it depends what you mean by closer relationship, doesn't it? We can't narrow the channel, but I do think that...
Thanks, God.
Don't give them
make it even easier for the boats
ideas.
to get across.
Don't give them ideas.
I'm all in favour of trading with the EU, and we'd like to do more trade. The trouble is that the EU is the world's greatest protectionist trade bloc. You know, they're explicitly a protectionist bloc. That's why the whole common agricultural policy and the customs union was created in order to be a tariff wall around what was then the common market against the rest of the world. And why would we want to be part of the EU again when we would not have a vote in any of the EU institutions and would not have a formal role in taking any of the decisions. We would become rule takers rather than rule makers. So we'd be in an even worse position on Keir Starmer's policy than we were in when we were actually inside the EU as formal members. But I mean, Starmer, of course, is an unrepentant Remainer and an unrepentant rejoiner. He's made no secret about this. He wanted to have a second referendum, hoping that he could reverse the result that we got in 2016, the largest democratic vote in British history. 17.5 million people voted to leave the EU, that ought to be respected by all politicians. Actually, if the people are the real sovereign force in a country, then their view ought to be respected. The trouble is, of course, the Tories bungled Brexit. Dreadful Theresa May. I always thought she was the worst Prime Minister ever, but sadly, Keir Starmer
hold my
has
beer.
done even her. But she was the one who bungled Brexit for the 2 years that she was Prime Minister. And Boris Johnson formally did take us out of the EU, but we never did anything with the freedoms that Brexit gave us to make a greater success of our country in the world. And of course, Starmer is always backward looking. He doesn't see the opportunities of the rest of the world, which is growing, whereas the EU is stagnant. I know we're going through convulsions at the minute because of what's going on in the Middle East, but the American economy is still hugely dynamic and growing despite all that. And the EU was accounted for 30% of world trade 40 years ago. Today it's 15%. So it's a declining force in the world. So why on earth would you want to tie yourself to a dead horse like the EU when you could make your trade deals with other parts, which we have been doing, to be fair, but not with the degree of vigour which we ought to have done. And if we were to deregulate our economy, which is what Brexit was designed to enable us to do, then we would now have an economy which is growing rather than one which is stagnant or declining. So,
well, I agree. I mean, I don't think, Christine, that we've exactly capitalised on the Brexit benefits, but I don't think it's been a downside either. We're saving £20 billion a year on payments into the bloc, which, by the way, by my mathematics, is around 200 billion now, notwithstanding the divorce bill. And I don't think we would get that back in trade if we re-entered.
No, I mean, I think people forget quite how much we were piling in over the decades to the EU. We were supporting, half of Southern Europe. What was it? The Butter Mountain, the Wine Lake, the this, that, and the other, and then bailing out Greece and goodness.
I was told that Neil liked the Wine Lake.
Well, I did my best to reduce.
He dived into it from time to time.
No, but people do forget quite how much it was costing each person to be in the EU.
Yeah.
And another thing is that I can't remember exactly what he said, but I can hear Keir Starmer saying, I'm not going to try and undo that referendum. I will honour that. I will not seek to go back in. I mean, and the other thing that annoys the hell out of me about Europe is the idea that we, the British, are not able to create our own standards, whether it's for animal welfare or food production or any of these things. Oh no, we have to be tied into Europe so they can tell us how to do it because we can't be responsible ourselves. This is nonsense. We're a free, independent country with higher standards than a hell of a lot of our European neighbours, and we can do these things for ourselves. We don't need to be tied to them. Yes, cooperate on X, Y, or Z, a particular project, but not in the way Starmer just wants to get back in there so he can be cozying around Europe, etc. He's forgotten that he's actually not going to be there very much longer. He's probably hoping for a great big European job when he's kicked out of here.
Well, I totally agree. I think, Neil, briefly, that EU membership is a con trick. It's a total scam. Let me give you an example of the policy DNA of the EU. The Erasmus scheme, which is going to cost British taxpayers £500 million, which is more than will be raised from the evil war against farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no special magic about the Erasmus scheme. There are other schemes which exist around the world which we are now taking advantage of, which we would not be able to do if we were formally back inside the EU. I'm all in favour of exchanges with academic institutions, etc., around the world. But this is another example of the EU being exclusive and looking inwards upon itself rather than outwards to the rest of the world.
Well, I know. I mean, Erasmus benefits a handful of middle-class British kids and vast numbers of EU nationals. We had the Turing programme, which cost a fraction of Erasmus, which had high levels of participation from young Brits.
Exactly. And so far more the youngsters were able to take advantage of the Turing scheme than ever could have taken advantage of the Erasmus scheme, which is hugely bureaucratic as well, which is typical of the EU. I was amazingly a member of the EU Council of Ministers 30 years ago, or 30 odd years ago, for 2 years. And so I saw the internal workings at very close quarters indeed. Everything that they wanted to do was to control, to regulate, to make life more difficult for people to run businesses, make money, make profits, etc., which is why the EU has been this declining force in world trade that I mentioned a minute ago. We have a trade deficit with the EU of £89 billion a year. So we should take a leaf out of Trump's book and say that unless we get a better deal from you, we're going to put up tariff walls against you because you'll be the losers and we'll be the gainers. So Starmer is doing the precise opposite, of course, of what he should be doing, but that's par for the course with him, isn't it?
It is. Let's take a voice note, Neil and Christine, on Brexit from Nick.
So the guy from the EU reckons that we live in a democracy and everybody's view counts. Unless, of course, he voted to leave, in which case it doesn't count, and we're all stupid for voting to leave. And we've got to go back in because he likes it. Well, there we go. That's democracy at its finest.
Very well put, Nick. Thanks for an excellent voice note. We'll get to more of your feedback shortly. Do we need closer ties with the EU? And are benefits now out of control? I'll be taking your calls shortly. Neil and Christine, 2 quick topics before I let you go. Construction companies will have to rely on illegal immigration to meet the government's target to build 1.5 million homes, say the left-wing Fabian Society. So do we need to loosen visa requirements to build more houses?
Well, what we should have done decades ago, and I blame Tony Blair for this, everybody had to go to university and get some stupid degree in, David Beckham studies or floral artistry or something. But it's true.
How dare you? I've got a first in jam making, and look at me now.
Well, there you go. Good. So you're going into competition with Meghan. But instead of people going to learn to be plumbers, electricians, etc., they went and they wasted their time doing these ludicrous degrees. They then couldn't get any employment, and we have this massive skills shortage. It's ridiculous. More and more people should have been going into apprenticeships, and companies should have been encouraged to take on apprentices, etc. So no wonder we're now dependent on immigrants. If somebody is coming to this country with a skill that we desperately need, whether they're a plumber or an electrician or whatever, and they come by a legal route, then fine, they're welcome and they can come and fix my plumbing. Thank you very much. But not otherwise. It's not a get out of jail card free for any illegal immigrant to come over just because they say they can wield a spanner.
Most definitely. Neil, very sad news. There have been some casualties on an Atlantic cruise ship after a rat-borne hantavirus took the lives of 3 people. Very sad. There's a Brit left critical. Will it put people off cruising? Have you and Christine been on a cruise?
Well, we have, yes. We enjoyed cruising, actually. We've done stints as speakers on cruise ships some time ago now.
We've never been on a... This sounds stupid, but we've never been on one, as it were, voluntary. Let's go on a cruise as a holiday. We've only ever done it when we were asked to speak on various ships. And we loved it, I have to say, didn't we? It was great fun. Yeah. Loved it.
We were even on board at Christmas time one year, and that was great.
Well, I thought so. You don't have to erect a tree at home. They do all the work for you. And the food is there. I mean, the buffets are amazing, aren't they, Christine?
Absolutely. Although, funny enough, Neil's sister has just been away. She's disabled, so there's a limit to what she can do. She's been on a cruise for 2 months, and she's lost weight. How she managed to do that, I don't know. She has an iron will, and she's actually lost weight on a cruise. But for most people, it's completely the reverse. Because you can eat as much as you like, and then when you finish, there's this enormous tea and then late night snacks. And it's a disaster. But they're great fun. I mean, and they're a wonderful way for people who are less able and more, etc., to have a holiday. You don't have to pack and unpack. You're just there. You see all these wonderful places. But my goodness, yes, if there was some awful rat-borne disease,
well, do you remember this?
Would be terrified.
This is how the COVID pandemic started. Well, it was on board a cruise ship, if I remember correctly,
Princess or something.
and which couldn't dock anywhere, so everybody was marooned in the ocean on board.
I remember that. And when that happened, it was a useful microcosm, Neil, of how the virus behaved.
Exactly.
And surprise, surprise, most people had very mild symptoms, including healthy pensioners. If only we'd used that as a control in the experiment.
You're absolutely right, Mark. And I was a member of the Welsh Parliament at that time, and I voted against all these extraordinary authoritarian measures that the Welsh government, following the UK government, introduced as well. And I made these points in debates in the Parliament, but I was in a very, very small minority. The main thing was the government should be seen to do something. It didn't matter whether what they do make things 10 times worse, which is exactly what happened. And we're still living with the consequences, of course, today. COVID is long gone as a serious ill in the country and indeed the world in general.
Yes.
And because that is the way viruses go. They become steadily weaker, because obviously if they're too strong, then they do themselves out of business because everybody's dead. So viruses get weaker, not stronger, and that was obvious right from the start. And there were plenty of academics who were world authorities in epidemiology and so on, who took that view. And sadly, the governments of our country didn't. Hence the problems we've got today.
Most definitely. Neil and Christine, you both work very hard. You always have done. Will you be taking some time off this afternoon? Will you take an amble down to your local watering hole? What's the plan?
No, what's the plan is, well, it stopped raining. We love the rain. I felt so guilty yesterday. I was rejoicing after my rain dance. The heavens opened, which as the keen gardeners we love. But of course it's hell for people having a holiday, bank holiday. So no, we'll be off into the garden to work. But can I just go back to COVID? You said earlier that during COVID, when everybody was paid to stay at home, and given the government's policy, which was crazy, there was no option. But that did inculcate into people this idea that you didn't have to go to work.
Correct.
For nothing.
You know, and
it created the illusion that we're a rich country, Christine, that can somehow afford to pay people to stay at home. During COVID, I saw a message on X, and someone was, I'm afraid to say a lefty, a latte lefty, who said, this lockdown, it's actually better than normal life. We should always do this. That's how insane these people are.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I know.
Nice work if you can get it. By the way, what's going on with the gilets? Anyone watching on YouTube will see that Neil and Christine, who are always beautifully dressed, are today wearing his and hers gilets. Now, for those that don't know, what is a gilet? Can you explain?
This is our new fashion label. You see? So,
is it a bit like Meghan Markle? Neil, are you the new... Dear, no.
I love gilets. This is a padded thing from Marks and Spencer's about 25 years ago. I've got them in blue, bright pink, yellow, mint green, cream. I just love them, and they're wonderful. It's a bit of extra warmth.
Well, I think deliberately coordinated, by the way. This is just what happens to you after 40-odd years of marriage.
You're so in sync. It was a thrill to see you both. Have an excellent bank holiday. Good luck in that garden. You'll be spending all afternoon on your knees, Neil. Good luck with that. My thanks to Neil and Christine Hamilton. What about our culture of welfare? Is welfare out of control? And do we need closer ties with the EU? This conversation to be continued. You're listening to Talk, the home of common sense.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Is welfare out of control, is my question this afternoon. Here is a voice note from Kelvin.
Since this government has got in power, we've lost loads of jobs and losing jobs every day, every week of the year, thanks to the stupid laws that this government have brought in. My sister-in-law has got her own business and it's been doing well for 11 years. Since all these laws have come in, she's got ways of cutting back staff, getting rid of people and trying to do it without being sued. It's totally ridiculous. So how do you expect people to find work? You're all moaning about people not working, but you know, none of you are saying like, well, they can't work because there's no jobs there because there's governments shutting everywhere down. So it's government to blame, not just the people.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Kelvin, and I think that's going to be the most important voice note or message of the day. Because whilst I say that we need to reshape the relationship between citizen and state, and whilst I argue, and I'm not the only one that thinks we live beyond our means and that the welfare budget is too high and not sustainable, you do have to have a job to go to if you're being made to work. So, Kelvin, you are so right about that. And it's my view that it's a human right to have a job. So if you're pushing people off welfare, there has to be a job to go to. The problem you got there is Rachel from Accounts, the Chancellor, and her economic policies, which are destroying jobs, which is a big, big problem. Kelvin, thank you for that. Keep the opinions coming. What about this, though, folks? And it's a headline in today's Sun newspaper. No sex, please. We are Gen Z. The cost of living is ruining the love lives of millions of young adults because they're having to live with their parents for longer. This doesn't end well, does it? Let's get reaction from a very old friend of mine, psychologist, social commentator, best-selling broadcaster and author, Dr. Pam Spur. Hello, Pam.
Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Dolan, as I always call you.
Well, listen, I'm honoured that you should give me such an important title. We've got to talk about this, haven't we? Because it's not easy to have a full relationship if you're living with mum and dad.
Well, life is a series of trade-offs. And if you are living with mum and dad because you can't afford to rent, then you are going to lose some of your privacy. Now, what I fear sometimes, and I looked at the data on this report, and it included up to 40s. So that was from 18-year-olds to 40-year-olds. I was thinking, unless you've had a real trauma, why on earth has a 40-year-old gone back to, mum and dad? So unless they've lost a job or gone through a divorce and they need a roof over their head for a time. So I was a bit shocked that they included up to 40 living at home.
Well, I think in a way it's a chilling statistic, Pam, and I'm glad you unearthed that. I think it demonstrates the parlous state of our economy at the moment. I think people are struggling well into their 30s now.
You see, the thing is, that is an excellent point. And the point you just made about if you want to kick people out of benefits, they need a job to go to. So there are a couple different strands to this. So some of these, young people living at home are saving, they are working, they're trying to better their life. They do want to rent, they just can't afford it right now.
Yeah.
Others of them will fall into that neat category of not employed in education or training, and they're just taking advantage. I consulted a mother a couple of years ago, wanted to talk to me about some issues she had. And in our consultation, she told me about, she loved her 28-year-old son, but she really couldn't get him out of the house. And I was sort of like, what's your day-to-day routine like? And she said, there's food on the table for him. His washing goes in with ours. And I was like, hang on, you're creating a hotel environment. No wonder he's gaming and going out and meeting girls and whatever, and not finding a job. You've made it too cushy. So in that group that we're talking about, there will be those who life has just been made easier by their parents, and they will become feckless adults. Children, young, adults, 18, 24, where we have that neat age group, they need to develop reliance. Self-respect comes from when you get up and do an honest day's work. But again, is there work for them to go to? So there's so many things in the mix here with this article. And I want to tell you, we're talking about their sex lives. What about the parents' sex lives? They're not getting any privacy when their adult children live there. I had my eldest son and his wife and daughter move in for 6 months when they bought a real fixer-upper, didn't even have a roof. So while the roof was put on, they lived with us. They paid their share of the bills. They did their share of the tidying. That, you know, it was not an easy ride for them. They are adults, and I expected them to behave that way. So at the end of 6 months, we all said, cheerio, bye-bye. It's been a good experience. So, you know, you do have to set boundaries, but I have to say, you know, at the time, my husband and I thought, well, we have less privacy, you know, not just my son and daughter-in-law. So it goes both ways in the family.
Yeah, there's bound to be less action in the bedroom for the parents or the kids if they're under one roof, isn't there?
Exactly.
Because you're self-conscious. I mean, Mrs. Dolan worries about it because of the enormous amounts of noise that will occur. You see?
And you know,
I tell you what, I'm playing with fire with this anecdote. But you take the point, though. People do feel, you know, to be intimate with your partner, it's a very private moment. And if you're living in a compact end-of-terrace semi, you might be thinking, goodness, can they hear us?
And the thing is, we're so bad about having these conversations. It takes either the parents or the grown-up child to say, hey, can we talk about, you know, making sure that one of us goes out to see a film so that, you know, my girlfriend and I can have some private time, and we'll do the same. So you and mum and dad can have some private time. So it's having those conversations, but people still hate those conversations. I've been banging on about this for 30 years. You know, if you just sit down and talk about it like, you know, grown-ups that you are, you can come to some sort of arrangement that doesn't lead to any embarrassing moments.
Timely use of the word banging. Now, Pam, you're far too young to remember, but sitcoms of the 1960s and 70s featured multi-generational households. There was a show in the UK called Bless This House, on the buses, in sickness and in health, where everyone did live all together. Given the fact that the economy doesn't look like it's going to improve anytime soon, do you think we have to get used to this now?
Oh, I think we have to. And I think other cultures have often done this anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I have Asian friends, and they, you know, moved in with his parents when they got married. You know, it's kind of a done thing in other cultures. But when it's a cultural thing and you're used to it, then you kind of know what the rules and regulations are. But for us, I think you're absolutely right. We are going to have more and more 40-somethings living with their parents.
Well, I agree, and it's going to have consequences. Pam, it takes a lot to shock me, and I know that this shocked you as well. Patrick Kielty is, well, he's a British broadcaster. Of course, he was a big star in this country. He now hosts one of the big shows in the Republic of Ireland on RTE, and he was interviewing pop star Boy George, and they discussed the Golders Green attacks. Now, it sparked controversy because Patrick Kielty stands accused of giving a reason for the Golders Green attacks as being the activities of Israel in the Middle East. Let's take a listen to this controversial clip.
For me personally, you know, growing up, I've had so many beautiful Jewish friends, and I still have. And being asked to kind of turn against the whole race of people is just not acceptable to me. And I'm getting a lot of abuse for it, but I don't really care.
And it's that idea, isn't it, that, you know, you've got attacks on the Jewish community, and the backdrop of that is obviously the horrors in Gaza, and this is a complex thing. But I know that, you know, you've always spoken out that violence is never the answer.
Well, I think you don't blame a whole nation for what's going on in America or in Russia or anywhere else, you know. I think it's really about your relationships with people. Do you know what I mean? I don't choose my friends based on their race or their sexuality or their age. I choose people because I like them and because they're good people. And I know lots of amazing Jewish people. If you don't know any Jewish people, maybe that's the problem. Do you know any Jewish people? Look at the choir, it's so weird. You know, as a country that's had a lot of pain, we should know what that feels like.
No, I know, and it's that idea that you must learn from the past and try to do different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the silence, that's surprising me a little bit.
Now, Pam, you've had your differences with Boy George over trans issues, which we're going to come to in a second. But do you think the criticism of Patrick Kielty is justified, given the idea that what he's effectively said is, you know, Golders Green was bad, but there's a reason for it?
Absolutely, the criticism is justified. He just threw out an old trope about, what the Israeli government, essentially is what he was saying, reflects on every Jewish person. There was Boy George, and hats off to him that he was talking very sensitively about the Jewish people he knew, his Jewish people who'd been in Golden Queen on the day of the attack. And it's just dismissed out of hand by Patrick like that. And I was appalled when I watched the whole interview. And I just thought, does Patrick Kilty and people like him not realize that right now there's been this horrible spate of attacks just in North London alone, let alone the entire country? There's been a huge rise in anti-Semitic attacks. Doesn't he realize that sometimes we just need to talk about that and the pain and fear that Jewish people in our country are feeling right now without throwing in some other stuff to it?
Which unfortunately feels like an excuse dressed up as context. I don't think it is context. And my producer, Faith, this morning in our meeting before the show, she put it right. She said, it's terrorism.
Oh, absolutely. And I just think that when you have a guest like that, that was not the format for someone like Patrick Kilty to start putting out his political views. He should have listened carefully to what Boy George was saying, asked him more about this. And when the audience all went silent about not knowing any Jewish people, maybe Patrick should have said, what kind of problem do we have here in this country? There are Jewish people who live here. How come none of us are saying that we don't know any of them? I mean, I just think it could have framed what Jewish people are going through rather than trying to pull away from the fear they're experiencing now into a political arena that Patrick Kilty was the way he did that.
And I think all too often, Pam, I don't think it is a criticism of Israel. I think it is just a hatred of Jewish people dressed up as skepticism about Zionists.
I absolutely agree with you that so many people will say, I'm not criticizing the Jewish people, but then they'll make that throw out these old tropes, and throw out, other things into the arena.
It's a cover. It's a cover for Jew hate. It's a moral fig leaf.
Yeah, exactly. And it needs to end, because I have Jewish friends here in London, and it's not a happy place for them right now. And, I just think we need to focus on that. And that's what that interview should have ended up focusing on, as George, was handling it sensitively himself.
And Pam, briefly with the clock against us, you messaged me yesterday about this story, and I'm so glad you did, because one thing that you found really encouraging and reassuring was that Boy George, who's someone that you've disagreed with over trans issues, because you share the controversial opinion that there are just two biological sexes, which is confirmed by any GCSE biology textbook, and it's confirmed by the Supreme Court. Anyhow, you and Boy George disagree over trans issues, but yet he can still be balanced and not tribal on this.
Exactly, because he's already said he's got a lot of flack, and I'm presuming that's from his more progressive left-wing friends. I'm left-wing, but I would never hold the views that so many other left-wingers hold in this instance. But you and I were going to talk about something completely different. And so when I saw this, I thought, maybe you want to talk about this. It heartened me that some of my fellow TERFs, as we're called.
Gender critical women who live in reality, yes.
Exactly. We've had so many rows with people like Boy George, and he's been quite reprehensible in his views about J.K. Rowling. But I was happy to see, I wasn't on X myself, but I did have a quick thumb through yesterday, that some of the TERFs are saying, well, hats off to him, he's right on this. And I don't want X to be an echo chamber where we all get cult thinking. I can only agree with people who agree with me about, say, gender critical issues. I don't want it like that. I follow both really left-wing and really right-wing people. I'm much more on the left of center. But if you get yourself into an echo chamber, then you can never think in a mature way and hold more than, one thought in your head. So you can hold multiple thoughts. Yes, I do not like Boy George on his women's rights, anti-women's rights campaign he does, but I do admire what he said about what Jewish people are going through. And I think more of us need to do that and stop being in these little cliques and these little echo chambers.
Leave the tribe. My thanks to Dr. Pam Spur, psychologist and social commentator, who can be found at drpam.co.uk. Thank you, Pam. We'll speak soon. Folks, we're going to have a big conversation next. Do we need closer ties with the EU? And is welfare out of control? Your calls next.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning and unfortunately conflict. This is Talk War and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
600,000 households are now better off not working. Is that sustainable? Is welfare out of control? Paul is in Newcastle. Afternoon, Paul.
Hi, Mark. In 2024, in December, I underwent emergency surgery on my neck. And I was left in a situation of being unable to walk. And I had to undergo physiotherapy and rehab. Now, I'm claiming universal credit. And I also get PIP.
Which you need because you cannot work.
Yep. And I was told to claim UC50. Which is incapacity for work. Now, I claimed that in May 2025. And it's now May 2026 and I'm still waiting a decision. Now, every time I phoned up to inquire how the decision was progressing, they said they can't give us a decision because they're dealing with an influx of new claims. Now, the influx of new claims can only be the influx of illegal immigrants making the claims.
Correct.
So, I just wanted to get that point across.
Well, it's also not just illegal immigrants who are a massive cost to the economy. Their accommodation, they get spending money, they get a mobile phone, dentistry, GP surgery. It's also many people who came over as part of the Boris wave, Paul, who may work, but it's low-skilled work often, and they have in-work benefits.
Yeah, that's exactly. I hate being on benefits. I would love to be in a position where I could go back to bloody work.
I know. Paul, can I ask you, first of all, how are you feeling? How's your health journey going?
Not good. Not good. Because I'm slowly getting worse.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that because you've had a problem with your neck, and of course the neck is a very sensitive part of the body. It affects everything else, right?
Yeah. When the operation, sorry, can I mention one more thing that really gets me annoyed?
Please, go for it, Paul.
After I had the surgery and all the problems started, I was actually, I don't know how they got my number, but it was all these different bloody claims companies phoning us.
Yeah, such a scam.
So like I should seek legal action and sue the NHS. The thing is, before I had the operation, I was told about the risks. It was my decision to take the risk. It might have worked or it might not work. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So why do I want to chase suing the NHS for something I knew could happen?
But now you've got lawyers that want to scam the taxpayer for medical negligence. Paul, my heart goes out to you. And I can tell you, Paul, speaking on behalf of, I would say, the vast majority of my viewers and listeners, that we pay our taxes so that good folk like you who would love to work that can't are supported. That is the welfare state. That is the safety net. That's why we pay our taxes. Problem we got, Paul, very briefly, is people sat at home with anxiety, whatever that is, on handouts. It's not right.
Yes, exactly. Now, unfortunately, before this happened, I was in a position where I was working.
Yeah.
And I gave up work to look after my father, who suffered a couple of strokes.
Right.
Unfortunately, he passed away. In the time I was looking after my father, I met my wife, who was disabled. Now, my father passed away, and I started looking after my wife, and discovered my mum had cancer.
You poor thing. And therefore your career is just like disappear without trace, right?
Mm-hmm. The worst part about it was my wife took her own life because of her disability.
Paul, I'm so sorry. I can't believe it, man.
I lost my wife, my mum, to cancer. Then I got this problem in December 2024. So it's been a bit of a rough time, and it's only getting bloody worse.
Well, Paul, my heart goes out to you. May God bless you for what you're going through, because you've been to hell and back, and you've got health issues, you've got bereavement, other family members that you've taken care of. It just sounds to me, Paul, like back-to-back tragedy and unfairness. And you really should be supported. And if I could rule the world and if I could run the country, I would recalibrate welfare so it's there to support folk like you. Waiting a year for his decision on extra benefits. This is a guy that cannot work, who surely should be supported. Paul, God bless you. You take care, and please stay in touch with me. You know I'm on at the weekend. Call me anytime. We'll always put you on the radio. Good luck, big man, and look after yourself. Catherine's in Dorset. Catherine, little bit of a gear change here, but old Keir Starmer wants closer ties with the EU. Do we need them?
Well, my big worry is this, that the EU are adamant about this freedom of youth movement, 18 to 30-year-olds to come.
Thousands of youngsters.
Yeah, well, we've only got 9 million 18 to 30s here. They've got between 50 and 60 million.
Yeah.
Now, they're not all going to come, obviously, but even if a reasonable proportion come, that's a problem.
Well, it is, because we don't have any GP appointments, and we haven't got the infrastructure, and we don't have the money.
The first question is, why are the EU so adamant they want them to come here? It's not to let them have youth experience, because they've already got 27 countries to choose from.
What do you think it is, Catherine, with the clock against me? What do you think's going on?
I think it's partly to solve some of their problems. Will it be that they can send a lot of their unemployed youth, because they've got very high youth unemployment
massive
here, and also they've got a big problem with migrants. Will those people who are maybe first-generation migrants that are legally in the EU, maybe for 3, 4, 5 years, with their parents, or maybe they're second generation, but they'll come here, and that's a cultural problem that we've already got a lot of.
God knows what they'll chuck in our direction. Catherine, call me again soon. We'll speak at greater length. Have a good Bank Holiday Monday. My thanks to Catherine in Dorset. Do we need closer ties with the EU? And is welfare out of control? So much more to come. You're listening to the home of common sense, Talk.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Just some breaking news for you coming out.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Two minutes past 3, you're listening to Talk. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins. The Brexit betrayal continues apace as the Prime Minister seeks to push Britain back into the bosom of Brussels, and it will cost you and I £1 billion a year for the pleasure. What do you think? Some people believe that Brexit has been a disaster. So does the UK need closer ties with the EU? Plus, what about this? It's been revealed that 600,000 households in the country are better off on benefits than working. So my question to you this afternoon is a simple one. Is welfare out of control? How would you distribute benefits? Who gets them and who doesn't? Is it mental health, stress, anxiety? Is that a benefit justification? Is welfare out of control? How would you share the pot? 03444991000 by phone number. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. So it's all about your opinions. You can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can also see the show. Just head over to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. And Jana is directing our TV output today. I'm delighted to say you can watch my guests, watch Dolan's Dispatch. Our boss today is the brilliant Faith, pressing the buttons, the outstanding Amy, and taking your calls, putting you on the radio and on the telly, Yana. 03444991000. Jana is directing. We are so busy, so much to get through, but let's get a reaction to this news now that 600,000 households are better off not working. Who better to react to this than William Yarwood, the media campaigner at the Taxpayers Alliance. Hello, William.
Good afternoon, Mark. Great to talk to you, man. How are things?
Well, I'm very well. Happy Bank Holiday Monday to you. 600,000 households are better off not working. That is a perverted, disastrous structure, isn't it?
Well, yeah, completely, because where's the incentive to work there? And let's break that down into actual numbers, right? That's causing the explosion in the welfare bill, which we're going to see by the end of this decade. And by the end of this decade, Mark, £400 billion is going to be the cost of our overall welfare
We
bill.
don't have the money.
£400 billion, and we don't have the money at all. We don't have the money at all.
I'm not Carol Vorderman. But what do we pull in through income tax? About 310, 320 billion? And the welfare cost is higher than that.
Yeah, it's currently higher than that. I mean, income tax brings in about 330 billion per year,
right,
and the welfare bill is just actually over that. So we're actually, spending more in welfare than we're taking in income tax alone, which is a depressing situation for the country to be in. And also, one of the worst things, Mark, is we've discouraged investment and entrepreneurship, and just basics of capitalism, which means that people are escaping to other countries where there's more generous tax rates than there are in the United Kingdom. We're hurtling towards a record high tax burden just in a few years' time, and that's going to encourage even more people to leave the country, meaning there's going to be even less people in this country, Mark, to pay that growing welfare bill, and that is just simply unsustainable and is going to completely bankrupt us.
And William, I know you well. You're a thoughtful man. You're also empathetic. You've got a big heart on you. We're not going to demonise people that merit having benefits, the people that cannot work, who require our support. The problem we've got is I've got viewers and listeners who go to work every day. They put in a 50 or 60 hour week, and their taxes are going to many who can work that don't.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge problem. And I have to say, a lot of my own generation is partly to blame for this. I mean, one of the biggest areas of increase over the next few years in welfare will be on disability, but not disability in the terms of you're in a wheelchair, whatever it might be, but it's actually on mental health. I mean, we at the Taxpayers Alliance found that people claiming the enhanced rate of PIP in January 2019 was around 23,000 people. But in April 2024, Mark, that jumped to over 110,000 people. 110,000 people claiming the enhanced rate of PIP for anxiety and depression. And look, I get anxious, I get depressed, we all do. But I think there's been an over-medicalisation of some of these, ups and downs of life, as you might say. And that's going to put an increasing burden on taxpayers. And as you rightly say, take money away from people who genuinely need it.
Yes, even Rishi Sunak said it when he was Prime Minister, that it's not conceivable that many more people have a mental illness than did 10 years ago.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is it's the medicalisation of the ups and downs of life, and also GPs have basically been at the front line of this, and they've openly said that the most sick notes that they see, especially from my generation, people in their early to mid-20s, most of the sick notes they see are to do with mental health. It's not to do with long-term chronic conditions or, actual proper disabilities as we might understand them and as we've seen them in the past. And the problem is when you've also got a flatlining economy with virtually no growth, unemployment is rising every single time we see the new stats out, and more people are leaving the country. It's a pretty dire situation. So to be empathetic for a second, I kind of do understand why so many people are anxious and depressed about the state of the country, and because if they're getting no opportunities and they're seeing no growth and the private sector is just on its knees, what on earth are they going to do?
Most definitely. Well, earlier I took a voice note, and it was a very important voice note, and it was about the fact that, yes, we should get people off benefits. It's not going to work if there are no jobs, and that's the other problem with this government. They've created a business unfriendly environment in which unemployment is growing.
Yeah, and this is the Labour Party, let's remind ourselves. This is the party supposedly of work. Labour back in the 40s and 50s was huge on full employment. They were huge on nationalisation. They were huge on, making sure that, the welfare state, they did indeed create it, was there basically just for, people who are genuinely disabled and indeed pensioners. It wasn't for the vast majority of people in the country. But now we have a Labour Party who I think has changed tack from the Labour Party of old, which was a pro-employment industrial Labour Party, to I think a pro-welfare Labour Party. And it's predominantly because, Mark, and this is not nice to say, it's predominantly because a lot of their own voter base, unfortunately, in some of these areas, will be basically complaining about a lack of welfare, complaining about the lack of money they have in their pockets. And Labour MPs, instead of thinking, how can I encourage growth, how can I get these people back into work, they'll choose easy, quick, short-term fixes like lifting the two-child benefit cap, for example, rather than actually encouraging growth and business prosperity in this country, which will actually help these people get a good job and actually help the country prosper more broadly.
Most definitely. Well, it was Kelvin who left a voice note earlier, and I totally agreed with what he said, William, because he's like, fine, the benefits bill is too high, but if you're going to get benefits, people off benefits, they need a job. There are no jobs. There are swathes in the country where people can't get employment, not just supposedly low-skilled work where there are very few opportunities, casual work, because of course they're going to get rid of 0 hours contracts. Also, even very well-educated people. I got a message a few weeks ago from someone whose son got a double first in aeronautic engineering that's been out of work for 2 years and is pulling pints in a pub. So that is a big, big problem, isn't it? How do you see this shaping out? Do you think we will ever get a shrinking of the welfare states?
Well, Mark, I think you have to do some relatively unpopular things. You need to bring back means testing. You need to bring back the household cap. I think one important thing you need to do, actually, is you need to get people doing in-person assessments again. Post-COVID, during COVID, of course, most assessments were done online for obvious reasons. But basically, before COVID, most assessments were done in person. Post-COVID, that's just simply not the case. I think over 85% of them are done on Zoom calls just like this was.
What a scam!
And
you
that's
can
terrible.
say anything on a Zoom call.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely you can. And that's a cool way I think we can get this welfare bill under control. And also I think we need to give some more power to GPs, essentially, just to reject sick notes instead of just signing people off sick. And yet there's a plenty of other things that we need to do on the Motability Scheme, on pensions, and a variety of other things. But the problem is, Mark, is none of these are massive vote winners. And I can say stuff like this because I'm not angling for anyone's vote. But the issue is that if political parties aren't going to get serious, then how are they going to deal with this bill?
That's why I worry about the future of the country. I've got kids and I care about them. Forget about me. I'm old. I've done my life so far. It's about them and whether or not the country is going to be bankrupt by the time they're out there working, William. And you're a young person too, and I care about your future. So the issue that you've raised is a big one, and it's quite scary, which is that there is a democratic dividend for putting millions of people on welfare, and there is a democratic dividend for open borders. That doesn't end well.
No, not at all. It doesn't end well, even remotely.
You can ship migrants into the country by the million. Once they get the vote, that's it. We're done.
Well, also, it's just people in our own country as well, Mark. You know, I think COVID changed the relationship between the state and indeed and the individual. During COVID, basically people saw the welfare state in the way that they've never seen it before, right? They got access to things they never had before. They got free money. And the problem is, Mark, when you give somebody something, it's very, very difficult to take it away from them again. And also because of the cost of living crisis, because of, you know, energy insecurity and a variety of other things, many people who relied on things like, say, the winter fuel allowance, for example, which occasionally back then was a small fraction of government spending and to some extent still is, but most people weren't reliant on it. Now people are very reliant on it. So when you try to means test, as the Labour Party did, there's a mass public reaction against it. I mean, the welfare reform bill that Labour tried to push through was destroyed by their own backbenchers. And guess what, Mark? That was only going to reduce the welfare bill by a measly £5 billion over the course of this Parliament. So at the moment, it seems there's virtually no political will to reduce the welfare bill. And while I know Conservatism Reform are making a lot of noises about this, I don't quite frankly have the same kind of faith that a lot of other people do in political parties and in politicians at the moment to get this under control, because like I said, Mark, it's going to take some really, really tough, difficult decisions, which I can say, but as a politician, you know, politicians might not be able to say that.
Most definitely. Debbie has messaged the show, William. She said, benefits, they're making you spit feathers, Mark. Well, I work in a job centre and see how it's gifted out to anyone and everyone. Universal credit ruined benefits because there are so many loopholes and easy options. Before I let you go, essentially, the headlines are, William, that we have a country that lives beyond its means, that there is far too high an expectation of what the state can do, which may be a legacy of COVID. We're in the red and we're just going downhill. It's an economic quicksand, isn't it?
It is economic quicksand, and for someone like me who's only 26 years old, I'm quite worried about the state of this country, and I'm quite worried about what it would look like by the end of the decade. And like I said, like you said earlier, you know, you care about your kids, you're going to care about their grandkids and the like. You know, I'm going to care about, you know, whether I had kids or not. I'm going to care about them. I'm going to care about other people's kids. I do not want them to be saddled with large debts to pay, with even higher taxes, and basically see nothing in return, which is going to just encourage them to leave the country. And that's just not a good state for the country to be in. Nice and depressing for Bank Holiday Monday afternoon, I know, Mark. But these are serious issues that we have to deal with.
Yeah, William, you're a credit to your generation, I've got to say. That's why we love having you on the show. And you've got skin in the game. This is your future. I was in this very studio, William, during the pandemic. And yes, it was a horrible virus. It took too many people's lives. It was an awful moment for Britain and the world. But with this printing of money and the endless borrowing to pay healthy people to stay at home, I remember saying at the time, I'm on the record as saying it, that future generations, in fact, Brits that haven't even been born yet, will be paying the price for this profligacy. So we had it with furlough and the COVID reaction. Now we got it with the welfare state. It's not good. William, let's have a cheery note. Two things I want to ask you. First of all, today's Dolan's Dispatch, reasons to be cheerful. And I said we're the sixth biggest economy in the world. We've got a very happy society. We're very creative. We still make things. What is your reason to be cheerful as a young Brit?
My reason to be cheerful, I suppose, is that when I meet people of my own generation who are right-minded and working hard, they have the same kind of desire to change things that I don't see quite often. And I think in a few years' time, Mark, whether it's before 2029 or post 2029, you're going to see quite a lot of young people who are going to say, you know what, I'm going to vote for the party who's going to do the correct thing, not the easy thing, but the correct hard thing, because I don't want my country to turn into a bankrupt third world country.
And let me share that with you, because both of my sons have been attending, well, one's at uni now, one's still at school, but both educated at a state comprehensive, and they and all of their mates are not woke. They think woke is mad, and they don't much like socialism either.
Yeah, precisely. So there's a reason to be cheerful there.
And they don't go to Eton because I haven't got the cash. But last thing, what's happening today then? It's a bank holiday. Surely you'll do your bit for the hospitality industry this afternoon.
Unfortunately not, Mark. I was actually down in Exeter for a wedding over the weekend, so I did my job for the hospitality sector down there. So I'm having a day off today. I'm having a day off today because I drank my body weight in alcohol and consumed my weight in food as well, which I had a lovely time. And obviously, congratulations to my wonderful friends who got married down in the southwest over the weekend. But if you are thinking about going out after this, maybe you need a pint after listening to me. I'm sure certainly people do. Please do go support your hospitality industry, because they're being hammered by tax rises and regulation as we speak.
William, always a tonic to have you on the show. You're welcome here all week. The brilliant William Yarwood, Campaigns Director at the Taxpayers Alliance. Thank you for that, William. Well, two big questions this afternoon. First of all, is welfare out of control, and do we need closer ties with the EU? Your opinions, your calls next.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I got a brilliant message from Jane, and it ties in with our conversation around benefits culture. We need to shrink the welfare state because it's unaffordable. We are broke. we're heading for bankruptcy. We're not solvent. But if you're going to take people off welfare, as Kelvin pointed out in that voice note, they're going to need a job to go to. And we've got a government that are destroying jobs. This from Jane. Hi, Mark. I do agree that some people refuse to work, but my grandson has been out of work since last summer. He's always applying for jobs, cannot get a reply. He's applied for over 100. Jane, I consider unemployment to be a social ill. It's a tragedy, especially for young people. Alex is in Bristol. Hello, Alex.
Good afternoon, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, thank you for being part of the show. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I was telling your young lady that my brother was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia in February after a few false diagnoses. In fact, he was rushed into hospital and pronounced virtually dead, but they managed to bring him back, and he's been in hospital ever since. He's dropped to 44 kilos, and he's obviously, like most, he's 60 in his 63 now. He's always paid his tax. He's worked his whole life, paid his tax his whole life, a proper hard-working man.
Yeah.
He applied for universal credit, or shunned it on his behalf, obviously to take up the slack while he was unable to work. The first indignity he had to suffer was them saying, well, first of all, can the doctor send a letter saying that he is in hospital, he has got cancer. So the doctor did that. They then sent somebody out to the hospital to check it was him. And the woman was so embarrassed, I don't know why they've sent me here. He was lying virtually unable to speak in bed.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. They then said to him, oh, we can't process your claim any further until you give us a commitment to work. And we said to him, how can he give a commitment to work? He's lying in bed on chemotherapy.
It's wild.
It's ridiculous. So I had to eventually go down, have words with somebody, and then his son, who's his appointee, went and stood there while they did this commitment to work over the phone. Seriously. So that they could give him some money. Now, he's exactly what the welfare state was aimed at, taking up the slack when things go wrong. He's terribly, terribly, terribly ill. And the woman said to him at bedside, she said, look, there's so many claims now that, we're just so far behind. Well, he's in bed with leukemia. He's in hospital. The doctor told you he's there. Just process the claim. And what's the issue? And it's taken 3 months from start to finish to get them to agree. 3 months of him, as well as being ill, worrying himself to death that he's not going to be able to pay his bills.
It's a catastrophe. It's a tragedy. It's a disgrace, Alex. And we're talking about leukemia here, your poor brother fighting for his life in hospital. We're not talking about anxiety or PTSD or ADHD or any of those bands from the 1980s, if it's like a bloody heavy rock metal nonsense. This is a serious life-threatening illness. Alex, how is your bro doing at the moment? What's the latest on his condition?
He's going through his second bout of the heaviest dose of chemotherapy that you can have. If that shows any sign of effect, that he'll have a third. And then I've done is I've had tests to see if my bone marrow will match his. I'm a partial 50% match, which they can use. And then if necessary, I'll have a bone marrow transplant. But it doesn't look great, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, there's no way, there's not a cat's in hell's chance that your poor brother is going to be working anytime soon, if ever.
No, absolutely no way he can get. As I said, he dropped down to 44 stone. They put him on some special things. He's come up, but I think he's 49 kilograms now.
Crazy.
It's still, it's like a child. And he's lying in bed, and this is the indignity they put him through. And very nice people, but they said they don't have time to process all the claims. But surely, it shouldn't be people that just stick their hand out. This is what the welfare system was designed for.
Well, you get people, Alex, on a Zoom call who say that they're depressed and they get benefits. your brother is lying in hospital fighting for his life. Surely a letter from the GP is enough to unlock that benefit. And you just mentioned, Alex, that this is a guy, A, he's very ill, so he needs state support. But secondly, he's worked hard all his life and paid into the system.
Correct. All his life. He's never.
Is he a scrounger? Is he a bit of a scrounger?
No, never, ever has he accepted it. He's the same as the rest of us. If the need must, he'd go and sweep the streets.
Yeah.
To pay his bills. He's one of those. And just to have him lying there, worried, I mean, he's got a little bit of savings, worried to death that he's not going to be able to pay his bills. He's got one son that's just finishing at university. He's got a daughter who's just got a job as a teacher. You know, a really nice family.
Alex, you know, I mean, I talked about it earlier, Alex. My viewers and listeners, we pay our taxes with pleasure for people who need state. So I don't know anyone that has a problem with taxes or a problem with the welfare state. But when it came after the Second World War, it was a safety net for those that can't work.
Correct. That's what it's designed for. It's designed for people such as himself that can't, and anybody, you know, if you get into your late 50s and you get made redundant and can't find a job because nobody will employ you. That's what it's designed for. Not because you've got a headache or because, God, if I can't imagine how our parents survived the war. I cannot imagine it.
Well, I don't remember benefit claimants during the war who were getting money for stress, even though German bombs were raining over our great cities.
Correct. And that's what they call it. It's just stress. They say they're stressed out and they can't do this and they can't do that. Well, you know, just there's plenty of, one thing I will say, if you go looking, there are plenty of jobs out there. If you're not fussy about what you take, there's plenty of jobs. But I read with dismay that the Whitbread Group had closed 1,600 restaurants or something by December.
Yeah.
Closing all the people. So there's another 4,000 people out there. Just wondering where it's going to stop and where this country's headed.
Oh, we're at the moment in big trouble. Things have got to change. Alex, before you go, do you wish to name your brother on the radio and TV so we can wish him well?
Yeah, his name's Adam, and he's in QE in Birmingham.
Adam, may God bless you and keep fighting the fight because your brother is looking out for you and worried about you. And I'm just sending you all of our prayers and thoughts, Adam, as you navigate this very serious illness. Take care, buddy. And your brother's a bit of a legend. I've got no doubt you are too. God bless you, Adam. And Alex, thank you so much for an important call. I just said on Talkback to our producer, Faith, that's what this place is all about, is to put a call like Alex on air so we can hear the state of the country where people who have got ADHD, which I thought was a band from the 80s, I thought it was heavy metal, but apparently it's a serious illness. But those people are on benefits. And then this guy's in hospital with leukemia, fighting for his life, and he's jumping through hoops to get basic support. It makes no sense. Georgina is in London. She makes a lot of sense. Hi, Georgina.
Hi, Mark. Just very quickly, I mean, in what world can you grow a country's economy when the welfare bill exceeds the taxes paid into the country? Anyone with half a brain knows, that this is only going to go one way, and that's bankruptcy and another Labour government who've got to get bailed out by the IMF. Those who get up every morning, rain or shine, whether they've got anxiety or depression, they go out to work, and they only do so now for the insult of giving a huge portion of their wages in tax to pay for people who don't want to work because they get more on benefits than if they go to work. Your taxes go on benefits and perks for migrants who don't want to work or benefit our economy in the slightest. Our taxes should be going for the betterment of our country, our defences and our infrastructure, but instead it's being spent on welfare. I mean, this government wants a welfare state, Mark. As with the welfare state, the population are easier to control. They have more power over the people. They can then dictate how we must live our lives. That is a perfect scenario for any dictatorship. And that is what we have at the moment. They're putting our country into a situation where we're in that much of debt that our only option is to rejoin the EU to financially survive.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have pensioners in this country, Mark, who've worked hard all their lives, paid into the system, and now they're getting penalised. Pensions being cut from people who've just landed into our country, having never paid a penny into our economy, or people who are just being signed off work permanently without even being seen by a doctor. This government is giving absolutely no incentive for people to go out to work. They're making it nigh on impossible for businesses to survive in our country, and then they have the audacity to tell us that they're doing a good job. The things that they have grown isn't our economy. It's the ever-increasing welfare bill and the ever-increasing numbers of illegal migrants. It's the ever-increasing numbers of unemployed, or the ever-increasing amount of attacks on our women and girls, or the ever-increasing amount of shoplifting going on in our towns and cities. Not forgetting the ever-increasing tax rises over the ever-decreasing amount of taxpayers in our country. It's an absolute disaster, Mark.
It is. It's a race to the bottom. It's economic quicksand. I got this message, Georgina, from Keith, who said, "Hi, Mark. I've just received my first pension payment, and because I'm still working, my tax code has reduced substantially, meaning I pay tax on my pension. I think people on benefits should also be taxed." David says, "My wife, dog and I are leaving the UK as we work in overseas aviation. The reason, tax and future tax. How can a country with so many people on sick pay and so many people on no need to work benefits keep its head above water and survive? Labour will come after the taxpayer. We're not going to pay the money that we earn on the sick, lame and lazy." That's David in the Cotswolds. He speaks for millions.
Does speak for millions, and I think we really have to take a very strong look at what's going on in this country. Those who are claiming benefits for the sake of anxiety or depression need to get up, give themselves a shake and sort themselves out. We need to be more like America. If you don't work, you get the very basic to survive.
Which is why Mexicans, I've been to America, Mexicans get up at 3 a.m. and drive 2 hours to serve coffee and decaf and burgers in a diner. And I've talked to them about their lives, and they love America and they love working.
Well, the thing is, Mark, you drive around any of these social estates where people are housed, people who don't work, you see more than one car on the drive. You see, though you know, they've all got satellite television. They all go on holidays. What's happening with this country when people who work can't afford any kind of luxury at all, and you've got people who don't work walking around in Balenciaga trainers and designer clothes? Now, I'm sorry, we really have got to get tough on this welfare bill and sort this out. People who are born disabled and our pensioners and our veterans, we have to look after those people because they have all contributed to our society, you know. But people who are just going to the doctors, getting signed off because they've got mild anxiety, that gives me anxiety actually knowing that's going on. And we have got to cut every benefit to migrants in our country. If they can't afford to sustain themselves in our country, then they must be sent home. And the illegal migrants get nothing. They get the bare minimum, food and water, until they can get the next flight back to Blighty, because we cannot go on the way we're going. Our country and our culture is dying, Mark.
Georgina, brilliant call. You take care of yourself on this bank holiday Monday. She listed all the people that deserve benefits. It's the people that can't work. It is Adam, whose brother Alex just called the programme, who's fighting for his life at QE, Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. That's why we pay our taxes. Folks, lots more to come. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Talk, and I'm delighted to say that I think it's lovely Kevin O'Sullivan live at 4 o'clock here on Talk. Yes, he is. Looking forward to that. Let's take a voice note from Michael. Do we need closer ties with the EU?
Mark, if you did a job and you were too thick to do it yourself and hadn't got a clue how to do it, you'd team up with a group of people who think they know how to do it, called the EU, and then they'll tell you how to do it, and they'll help you destroy anything that you try and destroy yourself.
Michael, you get it, I get it, and those that govern us do not. I think it's very clear, Michael, that Brexit, the EU, our relationship with Brussels is a political football and an excuse for Labour's failure, particularly the failure of our Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Is welfare out of control? Sophia is in Hampshire. Hi, Sophia.
Hello, Mark. Nice to talk to you.
You too.
First of all, I wanted to just say that my thoughts are with Alex and his brother, Adam.
Thank you. Agree.
Yeah, like, that was amazing, and I completely agree. But my point is that it's absolutely out of control, the welfare bill. I have suffered in my life with depression, anxiety, an eating disorder since the age of 15. I've always had a job, you know, maybe that I've not been able to sustain a job for a prolonged period of time, maybe, okay, but I get another job. So I've only ever been on job seekers allowance for 3 months in between jobs. Apart from that, so I'm sorry, but you have to have a reason to get up in the morning. The best thing for depression, the best thing for anxiety is to get up and go to work. That is the best thing for it. And it's just outrageous. I just can't understand it. I really can't.
Well, also, Sophia, I think we can all agree that I'm quite happy for taxpayers to fund support for people with mental health. And wouldn't it be great if it was easier to get therapy on the NHS? Wouldn't it be great if it was easier to get a GP appointment? So again, I don't think my viewers and listeners have a problem with the welfare state or the NHS or paying their taxes, but what they don't want is a reward for no work.
This is my point. And it's why I get so obsessed about it is that, you know, I would much prefer my taxes to go into support for people with, because from the age of 15, I've suffered with my eating disorder, and you know, thank God my parents have been able to afford to actually go privately to help me with that. But, you know, it shouldn't have to be, you know, someone down the road shouldn't have to rely on being able to pay to get that help. They should be able to get that help through taxes, through the payments that we make to better these services that we don't get anymore.
Definitely. And Sophia, how are you doing at the moment? How is the eating disorder and your general health?
The same, really.
It's a very, I mean, I've had some people very close to me with this problem, and it's very, very tough, isn't it?
It's very, very, very tough. It's very tough. And this is what I mean, is that, like, even with my parents helping me privately, you know, it's near to impossible, let alone people who don't have the money to do that. It's absolutely impossible. And yet we're just splurging all of this money on nothing. And I just think it's really sad, and yeah, it just upsets me quite a bit.
Of course. Sophia, you take care of yourself and stay in touch with us. I'd love to hear from you again. And it's very, very difficult what you're going through. And it's interesting that what you've said is that through your variety of significant mental health issues, which are not made up and not imagined, but very real, you've almost always worked, which I think is telling. Ryan is in London. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Mark. I'm actually from Tamworth, yeah.
How are you, big guy? I'm happy Bank Holiday Monday.
Happy bank holiday to you too, sir.
Are you working or are you chilling?
I'm working as we speak.
It's because those bills don't pay themselves, do they?
No, they don't, sir, no. No.
So, Ryan, what do you think about all of this, the benefit stuff?
Okay, so the whole welfare thing, I just wanted to say, my partner's brother is the master manipulator when it comes to the welfare system and how it works. Now, the thing is, you've got a number of different departments. So say, for example, you've got universal credit, you've got PIP, which is personal independence payment, then you've got what you call the other one, which is carer's allowance.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a number of different welfare systems which don't necessarily always liaise with each other. So if you know what you're doing, you can get all three of those benefits and have them put together and literally have a totality amount which will become more than what you will get if you're earning minimum wage. And I think that's the problem you've got is but people know, but the system's broken, and people know, but the system doesn't always check. Like, you said you had one of your callers, a couple of callers back who had cancer, and he had to go through a lot of different issues just to get the bare minimum of universal
Alex's brother Adam, yeah.
That's right. Now this is the problem which really gets on my nerves with this kind of situation, because I'm like, well, how does your brother get £1,900 a month, and there's nothing wrong with him? He's fit, he's well, he's relatively young, he's absolutely fine. He can go to work. He can understand. He can comprehend everything. There's nothing wrong with him whatsoever. But he's able to make a phone call.
Is he blind? Is he blind though?
No, he's not.
Is he in a Maybe he's in a wheelchair.
No, Mark. There's nothing.
Is he
wrong
missing
with him.
limbs? How many arms has he got? Is he down to his last leg?
He's definitely got 2 arms, 2 legs.
It's just mad. And by the way, that figure, right, Ryan, what you're looking at there, not to interrupt you, that's just under £24,000 a year tax-free.
That's right, yeah.
Wouldn't you you could probably do with that, couldn't you? 24k tax-free?
Well, that would be a nice little add-on, yeah, to my already, to my wages as it is. But it's just, I think the thing is, though, is like your last caller said, though, as well, is it's not always about just the physical money. Getting up in the morning, having something to do, and having a reason to get up and do something, to fulfill a day which is a proactive day is one of the best things you can do. And I think sitting at home all day saying, "Oh, I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that, I'm depressed, I've got all these mental health issues." I think the worst thing you can do is just say to someone, "Well, I'll tell you what, we give you some money and you just sit at home watching daytime TV all day." That's the worst thing you can do. And I think it just becomes like it repeats itself and it repeats itself and it repeats itself. And then you get a person like who I was just explaining, who speaks to somebody else, and someone else goes, "You do know you can get this?" And they go, "Oh, you're joking? Oh, you do know you can get that? Oh, you're joking? I can get this as well. Oh, yeah, you can get all of it." And then they just sit at home and they master the system, because they've got all the time in the world to master the system. And the next thing you know, they say to themselves, "I'm never going to get a job because I get way too much money now than what I'd ever do if I was working. And because I'm unskilled and I haven't got any education behind me and I haven't got any skills behind me, I'm not a job which particularly pays well. So I'll just sit at home and get this money."
It's mad, isn't it? It's mind-boggling. And Ryan, fair play to you. On a Monday afternoon, you could be relaxing in a beer garden, but you're out there working hard, putting a shift in, and your brother-in-law is clearing 24 grand a year tax-free. And as you said, Ryan, there's nothing wrong with him. Well, there's nothing wrong with you because you've spoken incredibly well. Do stay in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you again. You are listening to Talk. Lots more to come.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning and unfortunately conflict. This is Talk War and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Speculation grows that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, are facing marriage and financial meltdown following their disastrous fake royal tour to Australia. Let's get reaction from the president of Strelmark Business Development Consultants and royal and business expert Hilary Fordwich. Hello, Hilary.
Good afternoon to you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a challenging moment for the Sussexes as they navigate being ex-royals whilst still trying to make a living. It doesn't seem to be going that well.
Well, they wanted their cake and to eat it too. And hypocritical Harry, obviously, they declared their worldwide privacy tour a long time ago. I remember by that lake in Canada, Mark. I remember that photograph of him. He had a woolly hat on. He had Archie in his arms. He was beaming ear to ear. And I remember at the time thinking, while it was at that juncture a dreadful loss for them to have left the royal family, and I covered their wedding, they were 15 deep in the streets of Windsor and everybody was so effusive. I thought, you know what? Good on Harry. He's doing what he wants to do to live this life. And we all know that he went to California and they went to LA and hired 3 PR firms and the rest is history. But Mark, what I think is the saddest is they squandered what the Queen had high hopes for, our beloved Queen Elizabeth, and that was for them to be in the Commonwealth. And they could have been such a benefit to the Commonwealth countries. And yes, I think there's a lot of tension from everything I hear everywhere. And I think the saddest part is you can see the sadness in Harry's eyes.
Yes, you've been a royal observer for many years. This is a man that was once the most popular member of the royal family, ahead even of the late Queen Elizabeth II. A fun-loving chap, served in the military, enjoyed a beer, chased girls. Harry is unrecognisable from the man he formerly was.
Yes, you're right, Mark. And it's so sad to be so bitter. And I know a lot of Americans have sort of said to me, Brits have said to me, what do Americans think about all this? And I actually say, well, they're far more concerned about the price of petrol in their car because they've actually sadly become that irrelevant. And I think it's a great pity. And I think what must have been probably dreadfully painful for him was to see the impact of his father and to know that he was right next to that man that came to America and actually rectified, actually for the peace of the world, a global relationship. And then what's Harry doing? He's trying to flog his speeches for $50,000 in Australia and the auditorium wasn't full.
So it's your view that Harry is not happy. Do you think he regrets leaving the UK? Do you think he may even regret his choice of wife?
Well, you know, it's not for anybody to really try to speculate on anybody else's feelings, but if I could extrapolate, I left England as a girl and I still miss England and I still miss my friends, and I didn't have anywhere near the high life and the prominence and the rich life that he did. So I can only extrapolate and say, yes, I have never met, actually interesting, Mark, I've never met a Brit-born person here in America that doesn't miss England, Ireland, Scotland, or Wales, or wherever they're from. Everybody verbalizes that they miss it. So now I'll extrapolate and say, I'm sure that he does, let alone his friends. And remember, there was that video cam from the doorbell, the ring on the doorbells, him wandering around, I think it was Belgravia or Mayfair, ringing on the doorbells of
Very
old friends.
strange.
How pitiful was that?
Well, indeed, I was very confused. I thought he was looking for his dealer. But of course, don't forget, that was only a one-year window in his life when he was on the mind-altering substances. And meanwhile, problems for Meghan Markle, noticeably absent from the lavish Met Gala in New York.
Yes, well, that's to do with actually her alienating Anna Wintour, who, of course, is the publisher of Vogue, and she really runs the entire shebang. But it's not just Anna that she's alienated. There are others, and I know people who know people who know people, and they all say the same thing. It's, you know, something's true just when you hear, even if it's second or third hand, ubiquitous feedback. And it's the same thing. She's viewed as a landmine. Nobody knows when she's going to go off. If you bump into her, she's going to go off when. And that, I heard, not those exact words, but I heard about, like it's just literal words like, it's too high risk. I think the word probably I heard the most was risk. It's just too high risk. People don't know what she's going to do, how she's going to use them, and then get dumped. And it's just, people just find it high risk. That's the bottom line.
Well, Meghan even seems to be a liability in the charity sector. There was the row with Sentib Ale, and Dr. Sophie Chandauka, who has now gained control of that charity, said that actually they were struggling to raise donations because the Sussexes was such a toxic brand. There are some concerns that Invictus has become all about Harry and Meghan and the negative headlines. And of course, even Meghan Markle, as reported by Tom Bauer in his new book, Revenge, wrote about a speech Meghan made, and it was supposed to be a charitable endeavour about the opportunities for young people after Megxit. She said the word I 49 times in a 10-minute speech. So Meghan and Harry, they're not even of value these days in the charitable sector, it seems.
You're totally right. And actually, Mark, one thing they do here in America is when the president, whichever president's in office, addresses at the State of the Union, they count up how many times they mention either the economy, whatever it is, the war, how many times you mention a word, it shows where your priorities are. It's the same for everybody. So when you keep mentioning I, and one of the things actually I do in my coaching is stop talking about I. Always think about your clients, your prospects, other people. And she doesn't. And also, there's been the same thing, Mark, when she's been on various podcasts where she's come on, and she's supposed to be talking about a cause, and she does talk about herself. And ironically, she actually had a fabulous life. She's a very intelligent woman. She's slim, she's attractive. She has everything going for her, except for the fact that she's so narcissistic. And it's, again, a great pity because she, like Harry, has squandered all the popularity she did have at that wedding, because I covered it and I know.
And Hilary, you're the president of Strollmark Business Development Consultants. You're a regular on Fox News and Newsmax. You speak about royal issues, geopolitics, and of course, you talk about business and commerce. What's your appraisal of the Sussex business model as it stands?
Well, I have always said you can tell the success of the business and you can tell the type of business people run and the quality of the leaders by the people that work for them and their retention rate. You can always tell everything. Like if I go to a business and the receptionist is warm and lovely and wonderful to me, I know she or he is treated really well.
And they've been there for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. What's the retention and how do they treat you? Because that's how they're treated, right? And it's I think it's sad to see how many people have left. They have a ghastly retention rate. I think the retention rate I once calculated for the number of people I've met is something like 3.7%, which is a terrible number. You look for good businesses have an over 90% retention rate. So that's a factual indicator. That's not my opinion. I'd rather not give my opinion. That is a fact, Mark.
Yes.
That is dreadful for any business, no matter what the business. Then you look at the sort of the situation in terms of their marketing, at least with her recent wine, for example, it's a very good example. You can only check out if you bought at least 3 bottles of wine. Which business is so desperate that they make you buy a certain number of something because they have to offload the inventory? And then the other thing is, I think, and then she had asked me for my advice, not only be authentic, Mark, but market something that you personify, right? Like I mentioned before, not only is she very intelligent, but she's slim. She has a fantastic figure for a woman her age, in her early 40s, having had 2 children. So marketing jam, high in refined sugar, causes cancer. No. What if she'd actually talked to us about how she keeps that figure and what she does at her age to look that good? That would be really authentic. I'd be interested. I think most people will be interested. Doesn't everybody want to look young and slim and attractive? So she actually has something, but she's either dreadfully badly advised and or she has no clue about the business world, branding and or marketing.
And of course, they have huge outgoings. And it seems that Harry's rate for public speaking has gone from $1 million per speech to $50,000, which is good money, but still isn't going to touch the sides for their outgoings, is it?
You're exactly right. For example, Jim Collins, he wrote the book Good to Great, and he was charging $60,000 and booked for 6 months out. So even people that just write basic business books charge more than that. I just find it sad because he had so much going for him. And what was pitiful, obviously, about Australia was the criticism for monetizing everything. The worst thing that came out of that was, of course, Meghan Markle marketing her clothes at Bondi Beach, the site of a massacre. And when Harry's hypocritical, on the one hand, he's literally, I do think it does come from his heart. I think it comes from his heart that he wants to restrict social media for his children. That's very good. A lot of parents want that. But then they're using social media to market Meghan's business. So it's too hypocritical, Mark. That's the issue.
You're so right. And of course, I think that it's my understanding that Harry is not happy about Archie and Lily featuring on Instagram every 10 seconds, but Meghan does it because what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. Could the couple run out of money, Hillary?
Oh, at their run rate, absolutely, Mark. They've got that 16-bedroom mansion in Montecito, which, by the way, when they're hopscotching around the world, they could have put it on Airbnb. They could have got, actually, I think, in quotes, a royal number for that one. But they're probably not that desperate. But very seriously, with the security that they need, that run rate, plus the taxes in California, goodness gracious, they've rocketed through money. Although, of course, Spare was one of the best-selling books in history. So he did make a pretty penny from that. And they have got money, but I think, yes, their run rate is very high, and it's not going to be long.
Well, I just think if it was Dragon's Den, or what do they call it, Shark Tank in America, you wouldn't be investing in that brand. Yes, they've got a few quid in the bank, but I don't know about their long-term prospects financially, Hillary. That's the problem, isn't it?
And I think the problem, actually, that's the royal family's problem, because the problem is what would make the most money? We all know what would make the most money, which is why Netflix was probably interested in them in the first place. It's for throwing their family under the proverbial royal bus yet again. Goodness knows what they could come out with again. And that's one of the great fears at least I always hear from those who know people at the royal family.
Hillary, it's always a deep privilege to have you on the show. We'll catch up soon because I need to ask you about Iran and the King's trip to America as well. Thank you for your valuable time. Live from the United States, Hillary Fordwich, President of Strollmark Business Development Consultants and Royal Expert. An expert on everything is Kevin O'Sullivan. He's live in 1 minute. Hello.
Hello, mate. All right.
Good to see you. Listen, bank holiday